Good morning and welcome to Coffee and Handicapping with Scotty. How's everybody doing today? Cindy in the house early, and Patrick, and it's been a big day today. We got 12 races at Saratoga. The I think it's the Jockey Club. Let's see here. We're gonna go to race number 12 real quickly, but yeah, the $1 million Jockey Club Gold Cup Stakes, $1 million, 12 races today at Saratoga. Of course, we're going to be covering most of Del Mar, but you've got the Flower Bowl Stakes, $600,000, $103,000 allowance. The purses have been amazing over at Saratoga. The Saranac Stakes, $200,000. That's race number 8. And look at these purses here. Maiden races, $100,000. The Prioris Stakes and is super sensational. Going to be a horse that you can single. We'll talk about that and other races. So of course we're covering Del Mar, and we've got 1 minute before Saratoga's race number 1 and starting off the pick 5. I kind of have a strong opinion. I think this 5-horse War Smoke is the horse to beat. Doesn't have any speed. There were some scratches here that helped this horse because the horse is going to have to come from behind. But I do think from what I saw in that past performance, that first lifetime race, War Smoke is a single. You might want to consider singling the 2-horse Supreme Aura in the next race too. So I think it's kind of chalky in the first couple of races, unless the 5-horse War Smoke gets a bad trip. Sheriff Bianco, the 9-horse, probably going to be second at 5-1. So you can watch for that one. And yeah, it looks like those 2 horses. Looks pretty chalky. Who's going to get it for third? I mean, maybe the 12-horse, but War Smoke was ultra impressive and right now getting bet at even money. Okay, so that's coming up in about 3 minutes from now. The volume's too low. That's a new one. I don't know if that's you. Anybody else having a problem with my volume? Good morning, John, Greg, Patrick, Jason. Appreciate that. Yes, you're having a problem with my volume as well? I have no idea. I don't know if that's on Mike's side or not. Mike? Good morning, Anthony. Good morning, Lexi. Okay. Mike, you're hearing me fine? Okay. All right. So I don't know what would, yeah, you guys can hear okay? Okay, good. Good. We've got a few minutes before Saratoga race number 1. And we're gonna have a special guest today. You guys are in for a treat today. My guest is gonna come on. We're gonna watch Saratoga race number 1 first, and then we're gonna bring on our special guest who will be with us the entire show. Del Mar does start early today, so there'll probably be about a 2-hour show today. But I got to tell you, one of my favorite people, and we just met at the NHC, who's going to be joining us for the show, is super impressive young man, super impressive person. I sat at the table with him and his father, and you guys are in for a treat today. Very articulate, smart, likes to find long shots. I mean, everything that we love here at EquinEdge too. So that's coming up in a few minutes. I just want to get this Saratoga race in. I won't be able to show you the Saratoga, of course, so you guys watch the Saratoga, but I do think, and I was going to try to get into pick 5 myself, but I'm not going to be able to do it. But I do think that the 5-horse, well, I don't think, if the 5 gets a good trip, and even if he doesn't, this horse was like 10 wide last time out in his first start and was just mowing them down. I actually think this horse is extremely special. So even money right now, this is the best horse in the race, bar none, by probably 10 lengths. But there are a lot of horses in the race. So 10 horses in the race. Hopefully the horse is going to get the trip and won't have trouble. There's Justin. What up, Justin? Deb. Full house today. Yeah, you guys are in for a treat. I'm telling you. I know I'm building them up, but I'm being sincere when I tell you that's how I truly feel about this gentleman that's coming on. Young man, future of horse racing for sure, and we'll be able to do anything, whether it's broadcasting, of course, on the handicapping side, has had a lot of success in this game already. Just getting going. All right, I'm just real quickly going to pull up so I can watch Saratoga. I really want to see this 5-horse run. We'll talk about the day yesterday. We'll talk. Did we not give out? You know what? And I'm gonna say positive. I know what you guys are gonna say to me, but we were getting $2,750 for that 2 winning, and then they scratched the 5-horse. I'm sorry, but that's just, dude, they got to change those rules. Absolute garbage. 1 minute before the race, and they scratched that 5-horse who had no chance of winning anyways. The Rad Ortiz, drive me just crazy. Ended up paying $1,540, I think, which was great for $72 bet, but still. Oh my God. I mean, I had it 6 times, so that cost me $7,200. So we'll watch the Saratoga race. You could do a daily double as well, 5-2. 4-5 right now on this 5-horse. This horse should be 1 to 5 as far as I'm concerned. Good morning, oldie. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Juan, Mario in the house, Mike in the house. Juan, hello, Juan. As far as, let's see if we can do race number 3. Race number 3, I thought it was a 637. And race number 4, I thought was wide open. Okay. And then in race number 5, 614. Here's the thing. That's at most. I don't think the 6 is all that. 1 to 2 EquinEdge morning line, top GSR, top Scotty, 47%. But I do think the horse is good enough to beat this field. I don't think it came up that strong. If you want to add a horse, maybe Oksana, the 1. Irad Ortiz for Timothy Hills. But Super Sensational is probably a single. I think I got 3 singles in here. 5 in the first leg, 2 in the second leg, and the 6 in the 5th leg. Okay. So you're going to need a price in some of the other ones because it's so chalky. I don't know. Maybe spread out. I don't know. Is in the 4th race Risky Mischief? I've got notes on everybody. I don't know. Okay, I put clearly the horse to beat. You can see my notes here. 8 can sit off the 6 horse and can't ignore the 6 horse. Not really bred for turf, but maybe this horse, it doesn't. Maybe this horse go gate to wire with Joel Rosario, but very low turf reading. These horses don't win very often, but I thought this horse might be lone speed as they're loading into the gate. I don't know how much money I have in my ExpressPay account because I pulled it yesterday. I do that a lot of times. Had a really good day yesterday, and I always pull that money because if not, then I'll bet way too much. So I'm just gonna. I got $200. Just put it to win on the 5. Believe me, if I had right here without having to deposit money, 5,000, I would put 5,000 on this horse. That's how impressed I was with this horse. But you know, when you going this short a distance and you've got a full field of 10 horses, 11 horses, it's tough when you have the style that the 5 has. Yeah, I think they're thinking a very bright future for this horse, for sure. You got the pick 6, Jay. Nice. There's look at War Smoke. Irad Ortiz is aboard. Good morning. How many of you hit that pick 5 at Saratoga, early pick 5? Did you guys hit that? I mean, I'm assuming that some of you did, but all right, they're all online. Let's see what happens.
Bianco is going out for the lead. Her one and only now moves up to grab the lead. Bianco on the outside is now
way closer to the pace than I expected. Will that hurt the horse's kick? I don't know. I'm a little surprised that the horse is so close to the pace after what I saw last time. Wow, clearly in 3rd. I mean, wow. The fact that this horse has that kind of tactical speed sitting behind these 2 horses. Wow. I guess Irad was saying, you know what? We're not going to get caught behind. But sometimes when horses are too close to the pace, it really hurts them. It hurts their kick. When you go away from a horse's style. I mean, this horse is not pulling away like you would hope. Wow, not going to get there. Yep, that was the other one. Wow. That certainly didn't work out like I had thought. And that horse was so close to the pace, too. Patrick had that 9. Yeah, I mean, that was the other horse, but wow, what a disappointing effort from that 5. Anyways, all right. Find my spot. All right, so today's guest is a horse racing contributor and personality with Racing Dudes, co-host of the Magic Mike Show, handicapper for Somo Bombs, had a very good placing in the 2020 BCBC, cashed in the 2020 NHC, Mike Somich. Welcome, Mike. Mike, it's good to have you aboard.
Hey, what's up, Scotty, man? How you doing? Congratulations. Newly minted NHC qualifier here. I love it.
Well, you know what? After that experience that I had, Mike, I'm like, I have to qualify for this time because, I usually play in the cash games. And I'm like, you know what? I have to get better at the mythical $2 and win in place. And I tell you, I don't remember being that excited. I was pretty excited about that placing there. So getting first there, it was pretty neat. So now I'm going for 2 entries like you had in this past year. So are you already qualified for next year?
Yep. Yeah, I got a seat down at Texas in the Lone Star tournament. So excited to be back in Vegas in February, and hopefully I can get a second seat. Can I have to go after that one?
I have no doubt about it. But hopefully I will have a second seat with you. So and that was such a great experience with you, by the way, my man. So I really enjoyed your company, and that was a good time sitting with you and me and Brady and Tom and your dad, Mike. And real quickly before we get going on some of the racing and stuff, and we're going to cover mostly Del Mar, maybe a little bit of Saratoga coming up. Which I didn't start off very good here. I'm glad I didn't bet that $5,000. I would have got my ass kicked there, wouldn't I have? But I know your dad introduced you to racing, right? How old were you?
First time I went to the track, I was 2 months old. So he took me there right away. He grew up right around Saratoga. And so we started going. I remember it for the first time when I was about 3. My dad would give me $10. And back then you could only bet win, place, show. Some races would have an exact, and there'd be 1 daily double a day. So I would have $1 to show on random horses, and then I'd play the daily double every day and kind of got hooked into horse racing that way. My uncles were all into it, so the 5 of us formed a quote-unquote syndicate where we bet pick 5s and pick 6s together and just got more and more into it and hooked. And then I found the tournament scene, man. And like you said, it was an absolute blast being with you guys at that table last week. It's one of the best parts of playing these tournaments is the people that you meet. And when you go into these rooms, I was fortunate enough to play with some wonderful people at BCBC last year. NHC, I literally walked up and sat down at a table, and Ken Jordan, who happens to be in the Hall of Fame, was incredibly nice to me and just a really good guy. So it's just a lot of fun going there and being in a room full of horse players, which is something you rarely get to do unless you're at the track.
No, exactly. And is there a bet you particularly leaned on? Like what do you, I know you love long shots, of course, and we'll talk about that, but what do you lean on?
Well, I love to press my opinion. So for me, I love to play pick 3s, pick 4, and pick 5s, especially if you get some low takeouts. So I hunt for tracks that have lower takeouts that I can play these. And I firmly believe, I love the spread out pick 5, right? We're playing 50 cents, you can spread, and what people call a caveman ticket. But I think it's important that as you bet, you also kind of stack your opinions on top of each other. So I'll often play a 50-cent pick 5, and then a $2 pick 5 that's a little shorter, and a $5 pick 5 that really is pressing my opinions. And when I've had those 5-figure, 6-figure scores, for me, it's almost always been on $5 pick 5s. I mean, that's where I see them to do the best. And it's when you really just want to take a chance and narrow it down and play who you really like and kind of chuck a few favorites and see if you can get it done.
Well, and I mean, I'm imagining, right? Because I mean, you're doing, you're handicapping and playing horses pretty much full time now, correct?
Yep, full time.
Okay, so, right. Okay, so well, a big part of that, obviously, then you can't do that without really having a good way of betting, right? And formatting your tickets and things like that. Is there any one advice at all, or 2 pieces of advice you can give? Because we've really been pressing upon the group here, the community, that the betting and placing of tickets and money management is probably more important even than the handicapping.
Yeah, I mean, my number one piece of advice, I think, especially when you're playing multi-race sequences, is do not start forming your ticket until you've capped all of the races in the sequence. A lot of people will look at a race and they'll put 3 horses in the first race, and then they'll look at the second race and they'll put 2 or 3 horses in there, and they'll have a budget in mind that they want their ticket to end up being. I think it's important you look at the full sequence, and then you look at the odds of the horses that you like in that sequence and come up with your budget based on what the probable payout is, not necessarily based on what you want to spend or your maximum budget. Because when you work in reverse, you're going to be able to come up with a lot better tickets. And one of the things that you got to do is chuck favorites. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to use this horse defensively, or I want to use this horse because I don't want it to beat me. When you're going 5 deep and your 5th horse in is the favorite, that's a mistake. Because right there, you think you have a chance at getting ahead of everyone else. And the best way to beat the people around you is to be contrarian. And a lot of times that means leaving off favorites that you just don't like.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Is there a track you favor at all, or you play the bigger tracks? I mean, do you ever get caught up in playing some of the smaller tracks, Mike?
I love, and the best track for me the last 3 years has been Sam Houston.
Really?
They have, 12% takeout pick 3s, 12% takeout pick 4, 12% takeout pick 5. I have done very, very, very well at Sam Houston. And one of the nice parts about playing smaller tracks is you can scoop entire pools with 1 or 2 long shots. Even if it chalks out, if you have favorites in the other spots, those long shots separate you because the pool size is significantly smaller, which means there's less combinations in that pool. So your long shot plays immensely bigger in some of those smaller tracks. And you'll see it like Del Mar or Saratoga, where you have bigger tickets, bigger bettors, more all buttons, things like that devalue sometimes your 20-to-1 shots.
Yeah, we did a partnership with Sam Houston where we were doing the Sam Houston series, and I think we did that for about 7 weeks, Mike. I don't know if you saw any of it, but it was incredible, and we really did well. The people in the group, the community, we were having the best time playing Sam Houston, and I think knowing the track as well too. How do you learn about, let's just say, like Sam Houston? Do you like the tight turns and things like this, or the turf course and stuff? Because you couldn't be wide. How did you approach not just the handicapping side, but maybe the intricacies of the track itself?
Well, it's all about putting in the work, right? I mean, you can't stress enough how important it is to watch races, to be able to literally sit in front of the TV every day and watch the full Sam Houston card and watch replays from that track. And now being 3 years into playing Sam Houston, I have some experience with what I've seen the previous 2 years. A lot of times when rain comes, certain tracks play wildly different. And so being able to understand how Sam Houston played after it rained 2 years ago gives me an edge when it rains this year. So just taking notes. I have multiple Word documents that I keep that I just kind of have all of these different notes on different racetracks, how it fares after the rain, how the turf course fares, all of that information just gives you a slight edge when you go back and look at it. When other people who are just kind of just playing the best horse, which is a fun way to play, but if you want to be profitable long-term, it's all about how do you take advantage of your edges and differentiate yourself from the pack.
So Steve Asmussen really has controlled the Sam Houston meets. And do you look at that? Does that sway you on how you play? Like, I know he doesn't bring his best horses there, so that is a factor you have to consider sometimes when you see first-time starters there that they paid a lot of money for. They actually don't run very well, but how does Steve Asmussen factor into your handicapping of Sam Houston?
A pretty big factor, actually. I look for Steve Asmussen horses you can beat. The majority of them are wildly overbet there. They win a lot, but the ROI is negative for Asmussen over the course of the meet. And I would argue when you're looking at pick fours or pick fives, it's even more negative because most often you're going to see Asmussen horses singled in those sequences. So if you have a 3 to 5 or 4 to 5 Asmussen horse that you think is weak, that's a huge edge versus the public, because if that horse gets beat, any other horse in that sequence is going to pay double what they would as a win bet in the pick 4, pick 5 sequence, because so many people are going to be hinging on that specific horse. So if I can find a Asmussen that I don't like, to me, that's a huge advantage.
And the other thing too, from what I learned from you and watching you, is you play against the grain. Like a lot of people play with the grain, and when you play with the grain, you're not going to get prices, or you're not going to get big, horizontal payouts. So you have to really go against the grain, and you don't just try to beat a favorite just to beat it. You have to have a reason why you want to beat it, but it's important that you focus and try to get some of those bombs. But I found too, Mike, and I don't know what your opinion is on this, but I would love to know. I found that if you want to get a big horizontal payout, it's not about just getting a long shot. You can get a 10-to-1 shot. That's great. But if everyone played it, it doesn't matter. It's really about beating the big favorites that everyone is singling.
Yeah, I mean, if you beat 5 favorites in a pick 5 sequence, even if it's with 3-to-1 or 9-to-2 horses, the thing's going to pay, because the most singled horses in every race is always the favorite. And when you look at the percentages of how heavily those horses are singled, even beating a 2-to-1 favorite in 4 or 5 straight races is going to make a huge difference. Most people have to single somewhere, right? You're not going to have these monster $400, $500, 50-cent pick 5 tickets all that often. And if you have to single somewhere, most people, just because the general mentality of the human brain is to single the favorite, because you want to give yourself the quote unquote best chance to win. But singling that favorite isn't necessarily the best long-term chance to win. Yeah, sure, the horse has the best chance to win in that race if you're looking from a statistical perspective, but you as the bettor's best chance to win is by not singling that favorite. And so it's kind of just a different way to approach it, because you're trying to be successful and profitable over the long term versus, that one race where your single is trying to get home.
So talk about the Somo bombs and where that came from. Obviously, you go for long shots and stuff like that, and so that's named after you. But where can people find your Somo bombs, and what specifically is it?
Yeah, so it's a product I do Friday through Sunday. So for big days, if you want my opinion, and that includes all the pick 4s and pick 5s that I'm playing, and it's literally the tickets that I play every day. So I've had the thing for about 2 years now, and I bet every single ticket that I give out. I think that's important. A lot of people who are giving out picks don't bet their own picks, and I think that's ridiculous. Like if I'm telling someone to put their hard-earned money on it, then my money is on it too. I think that's important. And what ended up happening is I was giving out picks for free for about 2 months, and then some people had some choice words for the free picks, and so I said, okay, well, if you want them, here they are. And then we also do pick 4 and pick 5 shows, so I make sure I try and get my opinion out there as much as possible so that people can kind of see how I play and understand how I get to it. I'm excited to do this show because we're going to dive into how we actually handicap these races and who we like and the angles that we use. And one of the fun parts about going back and forth with you at NHC was you'd bring up a race, I would see it differently. We talk about why EquinEdge sees it a certain way. I tell you what the workout reports are saying. We're looking at all this different information to kind of come up with the best opinion. And it's really cool when you see different handicapping styles meld together. And when they end up on the same horse, that should tell you something. When they end up on different horses, we'll see what happens, right? So I'm excited for this just to see kind of how it's going. And yeah, I'm saying don't single favorites. I think you can. I think in certain times you should. Like, don't get me wrong. Like Nick's Go was a single at Saratoga, right? And you don't try and beat that type of horse, right? But Latruska, I thought was a beatable horse. I didn't single Latruska because I thought there were other horses in there that could cause trouble for her and that the pace pressure could be a problem for her. And we got the pace pressure we wanted. We just got a couple rough trips on a couple horses that could have gotten home with big numbers.
Right. When you have a free square, you have to take that free square. I mean, there's no question about that. But I want to make a point, though, that what you just said. You said when we were talking at the NHC and when things lined up, that's when you know that, hey, that might be a single. Well, that's exactly what EquinEdge is all about. Not to tout just EquinEdge, but seriously, when the metrics like the GSR, the SORs, Scotty Longshot or Scotty Topic, or the win percentages, the EquinEdge morning line, when they start lining up, that's when you know you have a horse. And so that's the way you're supposed to use the metrics. So I was really blown away at the NHC, and I kept bringing this up to you. I'm like, okay, who do you like? I don't know if you noticed or you remember, and I did say this to you, Mike, your top pick, your long shot you liked was the Scotty long shot much of the time. Did you notice that?
I did. It was funny because I went back and I looked at it after the day was done, after the first day, and I was shocked at how many of the Scotty long shot horses that I ended up getting to. And like you said, these are different algorithms that are working in different ways. So it's interesting that my handicapping style, specifically for tournaments, right, it kind of lined up with who that Scotty long shot was. And so I think a couple of my optional plays were Scotty long shots. I think 2 or 3 of my mandatory plays were the Scotty long shot when I went back and looked at it. So I thought that was interesting. And you know, I'm someone here who's new to EquinEdge. I have used it for about 5 days, right? But for me, I think it's really interesting. We talked about this as well at NHC. Like, I'm an old school guy. I like DRF. I go through DRF. I handicap the full races. But I think it's important to then take your opinion and then look at a couple other factors and say, hey, did I overlook a certain horse? Should I look at this horse again? And it gives me the ability to go and say, okay, let's say the Sky Long Shot here in Gulfstream Race 2 is the 2 horse, and I don't use the 2 horse. It's worth the 2 minutes to go back and look at the 2 horse for me if I know that algorithm specifically lined up with my opinion in tournaments for a pretty consistently over a 2-day period.
Absolutely. All right. Talk about the Magic Mike show and what you do on there and what that show is all about. And also feel free to please, give out your Twitter handle, where people can find the Somo Bombs, also the Magic Mike show.
Yeah, for sure. So Magic Mike Show is a podcast that it just kind of fell into my lap in a way. My co-host, Curtis Kelleward, who's been amazing in the racing industry, he's kind of started to come up into it and just helped out at Del Mar. He was actually took over your job at Del Mar there for about a day last week with John Lees. He's wanted to start his own podcast, and I was the first guest. And our chemistry was good enough that it just stuck. We met each other in a restaurant, had a couple drinks, and ended up just kind of letting run with it. We've had over 300 episodes now. We have 2 different styles. So we do a pick 4, pick 5 sequence every Thursday. And I love doing that show because much like this, we dive into why we like horses. We're not just trying to give out a ticket. We're trying to help people handicap and find the type of horses that I'm looking for and how I structure tickets. I talk about ticket structure quite a bit and different styles of ticket structure that I'll use depending on what I think the sequence will pay and where I want to invest the money in those sequences. And then Monday, we'll do kind of a review show where we'll talk about some of the races over the weekend. We'll talk about big horses, where they're going to point, and whether or not we think they're playbacks. And then we're starting a segment I'm actually excited about on Monday called Stable 'em Up Horse of the Week, where we're actually going to give a horse that we saw over the weekend that was either a bad trip or, there's a horse that looks like it wants to point to turf but ran on dirt, and it was just one of those races where the trainer was trying to get one into it. And so we're going to each of us give out a horse every Monday to kind of stable up and put in there and hopefully get a price in the next time out.
All right, perfect. All right, our guest is Mike Somich of the Magic Mike Show, Somo Bombs, a horse contributor and personality in horse racing on Racing Dudes. So you don't want to miss Mike and look him up. And Mike, what is your Twitter address?
Yeah, I'm at Somobomb, SOMOBOMB18. It was actually a high school nickname when we had wrestling was mandatory where I was my freshman year. And my signature move became the Somobomb. And so it stuck with me for about, 20, 25 years now. So we got it on Twitter. It's the name of the horse racing product that we put out. And it's been a blast.
Well, did you grow up in Iowa or where did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Chicago. So grew up outside of Chicago and went to high school around the Oak Brook area. Went to University of Missouri for about a year and then quit to play poker professionally. Lived in Vegas for about 6-7 years and then got into horse racing.
So you were doing poker before horse racing? I mean, your dad's been doing horse racing for a long time.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a long time. He's always had a different job. It's been one of those hobbies for him. For me, he taught me game theory when I was young. Accidentally, we played backgammon, we played cards when I was 4 and 5 years old, and so I started playing poker when in high school, and then took it seriously when I got my freshman year in college, and I realized I was pretty good at it. So I was able to go out and make a career out of that for a good chunk of time, and then ended up in LA and kind of got into horse racing because I saw a lot of the same game theory mistakes that people made in poker, people were making in horse racing. I thought you could kind of have an edge when you're playing these pick 4 and pick 5 sequences if you're contrarian and if you're looking for unique ways to tackle sequences that are able to force payouts that are bigger than what most people would expect.
So, okay, so on poker, so I'm going to ask you a question about when do you think poker really took off? Obviously we know once they started showing on TV what these players had. I think we're trying to do this here with this community at EquinEdge and being able to show people how to handicap using the tool. And then when they watch, they feel like, oh, I can do that. Talk about poker and how they became, how all of a sudden poker blew up. I think it's because of that reason, right? You became a fan of some of the people you were watching and you saw what they were doing. And you thought, you know what, I can do that.
Yeah, I think it was kind of twofold. Obviously, the World Series on ESPN was a huge influence. Rounders, the movie, I think actually had a big impact on people who were my age. That came out when I was in high school. And I remember watching Rounders, 50 times. Like we would have a card game in high school and Rounders would just be on loop in the background. And we'd watch it 3 times in a 9-hour session. I think Rounders had a big impact on people who were around my age. I'm 36 or 38. So I think that was kind of a big part of it. The other part of it just became more accessible. I mean, all of a sudden online poker became a thing. And so I think online participation definitely made a big difference. And you had a lot more accessibility to the people who were good at it, which is huge as well. You had things like high stakes poker where you saw people who were successful poker players and how they played hands and how they'd attack hands. And one of the things I'm excited about in the horse racing industry is successful horse players talking more about how they're playing horses, because I think that's really important. Some people we're talking about, like I said, aren't people who are betting a lot of money. And you and I, we bet quite a bit of money. So I think it's important to hear from people who are successful at it versus just the people that you kind of see as the figureheads of an industry.
What do you think about this new generation of young people coming into the game, poker players and sports bettors and things like that? Don't you think that the new tools like EquinEdge and others like it, we're not going to attract people using past performances like we grew up. I mean, you after me, but we need things like this because they've got information at their fingertips fast, and so they need tools that they can handicap with quickly.
Yeah, I mean, speed is obviously important. I mean, you just look at the entire generation and social media and cell phones and just general attention span is been shortened from when I was young to when kids are young now. And I'm sure it'll be shortened again in 20 or 30 years. So the evolution of how you handicap is definitely important. And the evolution of the ability to handicap quicker is definitely important because people are, I mean, you don't just go and you don't sit and play one track anymore, right? Where you go to Saratoga and you just sit in the grandstand and you're just playing Saratoga and maybe you see one feed. I mean, we're sitting and we have TVG showing a race every 5 minutes. You have, Fox Sports when it's on showing a race every 10, 15 minutes. And so it's just much more fast action. And that's kind of what people in my generation are looking for. And as you said, when you get these big bettors in, and information availability is a huge issue in our industry, but when you get these big bettors in, they want to be able to look at algorithms and AI and and say, okay, I want data from the past 4 years to come up with my answer. I don't just want to look at a piece of paper where I can see this horse's race. I want to be able to compare this horse directly with a horse that is a similar race profile that ran at Saratoga 3 years ago. And I want to know how they did when they were going through this process. And so the ability to kind of take AI and take data and be able to create those type of answers is something that's huge for my generation if you want to attract in the people that are actually going to bet a lot of money.
For sure. Did you look at Saratoga by chance? I know we're covering Belmar, so I don't want to throw you on the spot, but did you look at Saratoga?
Of course I did, Scotty. Come on.
I figured that. I probably should have just gone with it, in knowing that you of course looked at it. But look at this. This is interesting, right? You have a purse. You have a 20,000 claimer at Saratoga with a purse of $48,000. I mean, we need more of this. I mean, how incredible is this purse? Look at this, which means you're going to have, there's opportunities for claims and things like this, which I'm sure many of these horses are going to get claimed out of here for a $20,000 claim, and you can run for a $48,000 purse.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's huge, right? You got to have, it's one of the reasons I love Kentucky Downs too. The bigger the purses you make, the more interested the owners are to get horses there. I mean, you have $120,000, $130,000 maiden special weights at Kentucky Downs. You get to see some awesome turf horses in those races, and you get to see a lot of owners who hold their horses out to take shots in those spots. And this example of a $20,000 claimer, we can buy the horse for 20, but the purse is 48. It makes it really enticing, because if you win this race and you get claimed, you're getting what, almost $42,000 back as the owner. Whereas if you wait to run at Belmont and you win this race and get claimed, you're going to get sub 30 because the difference in the purse money. So jacking the purses up for these lower level claimers definitely creates more competition, bigger fields, more interest, more claims, which creates more horses running back. I mean, it's all good things when you're able to create big purses in this situation.
Poker player, horse player, backgammon player can do math like that fast. Did you guys see that? I mean, that's what you're dealing with. You want to definitely follow Mike. He is incredible. Look at this horse, Supreme Aura. This is an example of where George Weaver just had this horse in for $40,000 over at Belmont Park, and now this horse is in cut in half and running for a purse of $48,000. So he would have no problem putting this horse in for $20,000, going, hey, let's get a win here. Top Scotty pick, top 26%, lukewarm top win percentage. But when you look at a horse like this, is this the type of horse you would claim?
I mean, personally, if I had 20 grand sitting around, I think this is a worthwhile claim. I mean, it just got claimed for 40 last time out. I don't see this as a worrisome drop. I don't think that the horse, there's anything wrong with the horse. You have a 6-year-old here who probably doesn't have too much time left in their career, but you could take this horse and put it in for 30 and it probably gets claimed right back. I mean, that's the nice part about it. So you have a quick run at Belmont. It's interesting. You do see these drops more aggressively later in a meet because you don't want to pay to transfer the horse from track to track. So you do have, so these drops mean even less to me later in a meet, and it's closing weekend at Saratoga. So for me, this isn't really a concern in that sense. The horse is probably pretty sound. And this horse was claimed for $16,000 back in Aqueduct earlier this year. So it's kind of at that level where the original claim happened, but it's improved significantly since then. And that was in the Rudy Rodriguez barn. Now you're in the Weaver barn. I mean, both of these barns are ones that I don't mind claiming out of in that sense. So yeah, I wouldn't mind taking a shot at this horse for 20.
Well, and here's the thing too. When you look at this is the SOR is so extremely important because it just goes to show you how tough the competition is here at Saratoga, where you're running for 40,000 at Belmont, but you come here at Saratoga where everybody wants to win, here or Del Mar, and you've got better horses here, and it's a lot harder to win. The SOR in that last race for 40,000 was 64. Here for 20,000, it's 64. You can see the current competition there. So it just goes to show you when you're running at these bigger tracks, everybody wants to win at them. Saratoga and Del Mar, especially Keeneland. And so you've got to realistically spot your horses. I couldn't imagine that this horse would probably win at 40,000 here at Saratoga, right?
It would be in deep water. I mean, that was a $40,000 field with 5 horses. And so it was a short field with, and Belmont doesn't come up that tough in early July, usually in these lower level claimers, because people are wanting to point towards Saratoga at that point. So yeah, I would say this would be deep water if you were in for 40 at Saratoga, but here at 20, it's a deserving favorite. I think this is the horse is probably the most likely horse to win. I think that the 8's being a little over bet right now because there is other speed in there with the 4. So I think it's interesting to see how this plays out, but I do like the 2 in this spot.
Yeah, well, you know what? Originally I didn't like the 8 because I thought the 9 hurt the 8's chances, but the fact that the 9 horse has been scratched maybe gives a sharp a better chance of winning. So from what I saw, the 8's going to probably clear now that the 9's been scratched. So you might want to change your mind on that one possibly. So race number 2 is coming up in 6 minutes at Saratoga. But we're going to get out to Del Mar and start handicapping that because we don't have a long time. These shows go by very fast, Mike. You'll see. And so we're going to go to Del Mar. We're going to handicap the entire card, and you got to scratch the 10-horse Star Sailor. It leaves us with a field of 9 horses, and the 2-horse Cali Bay. I got a note on there. Terrible turf breeding. I'm looking at 34 on the GSR. Is this the type of horse that you like? I mean, why do you think Phil D'Amato puts this horse? Just really has terrible dirt breeding. I mean, clearly, if you look at the GSR tab, this horse has got a 6-1 on the turf and a 30 on dirt. Does he not know? Why would he put a horse like this in here?
Honestly, I think it's more. I want to get one more race in at Del Mar, and I think that they're a little confused with what to do with the horse. They brought this horse over from Ireland, and usually when you bring over these European horses, you're expecting them to be better on the turf. Both efforts on the turf weren't bad. I found it was very odd that this horse ended up in here because I agree with you. Everything screams turf here, and we're going 6 furlongs on the dirt. For me, it's one of those where I couldn't get to the 2 in this spot.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Okay, how about Vito, the 3-horse, and then you can go ahead and just talk about some of the horses you like in this race. But I thought this horse deserved a big look. The EquinEdge morning line, it's 5-2 on this horse, but the EquinEdge morning line is even money.
Yeah, this is one of the interesting horses. I mean, to me, you have to start with the 2 Bafferts in this race, right? You've got Vito, the 3-horse, and you've got the 9-horse Sumo. I personally am not a big fan of playing Bafferts that is second time or third time out. When they don't get the job done first time, I kind of downgrade them a little bit. Vito debuted at Los Alamitos as a 90 cents on the dollar favorite. When you go back and you look at that race, this is something I do is, okay, let's see what happened. Let's see who came out of that. So Butkus wins it. Who's the star runs second. Both of those horses have come back, and neither of them have done very well. 70 and 73 Buyer. Actually, no one in this race has come back to win yet. So when I look at Vito, this is actually a horse that I try and play against because I think that maiden race is what I call a paper tiger. It's a race that looks good on paper, and the horse looks like it got a good experience, but everything out of there just hasn't been running as well as you'd expect when you look at, a first out 82 Buyer for a 2-year-old. So I'm sorry, for a 3-year-old. So I kind of went around and looked in different spots here. I kind of like the 8 Solo Amino here, 10-1 on the morning line. I actually like the 10 Star Sailor, so I'm kind of bummed that horse scratched out. This is a horse that I think has a shot at a price. You have D'Amato, who is 22% off this type of layoff. The horse took a long layoff, but if you look 2 back, ran against Tripoli over the turf. Has run against pretty good horses. We're getting first off the layoff here. I like the 4-year-old coming off the layoff. I think it's a logical improvement angle. I think you could see a pretty big effort here from Solo Amino, who you're getting 10-1 on the line.
Okay, so, and yeah, this horse has been off since 2020. By the way, too, when people talk about which horses to not use as far as favorites, I'm going to assume that Vito's is going to probably be a big favorite in this race. And this is the type of horse we're talking about, where you would maybe leave a horse like that out, especially, drawing inside as well, right? So you've got some decently fast horses on the outside of Vito. So maybe this is the type of horse to try to beat. We'll look at the simulated race too and see what it says. Junior's saying, Mike, seeing your result, did you have off days at NHC this year, and what attributed to that? If in fact you did, what do you make of your tournament this year at the NHC?
I was in over my head with 2 entries. I'm going to be honest. I came in there with a certain strategy, and I hate my strategy leaving there. So my goal was to try and essentially have 3 races on each, my A and my B ticket, to have the same optional horses. Trying to find 20 optional horses that you like in the first day is much more difficult than you expect walking into it, especially when you have that many races going back to back. I mean, I remember we're missing Gulfstream because we can't hear it because other races are running. Same with Ellis. If I had to do again and I had 2 entries, I would play every optional horse the same because it allows you to be more patient, to wait through where you pick.
Really?
And then we actually talked about this before the race even started on Friday. If you put up a bad score on Friday, you were in trouble. And that put me behind the 8 ball right there. Saturday, you had 3 mandatory races from Saratoga. All 3 of them were likely chalk races. All 3 of them were won by the favorite. So that kind of took 3 bullets away from you. And there were, I think it was 0 or 1 15-1 plus winner on Saturday. And it kind of looked like that going into it. There were a ton of 6 to 7 to 1 shots, but if you had ground to make up, you're kind of forced to start taking chances, playing 20 to 1s, playing 15 to 1s. And when you don't get to them, it really hurts. I made 2 significant mistakes too. I had a Rosario at 13 to 1, and I didn't use on either ticket the first day. And the first race of Saturday, I like the 5 horse. We talked about it at Saratoga. It was the first race the whole day. Horse goes off and wins at 11 to 1, and I'm sitting there with my hands in my pockets instead of having it on one of my tickets. And that kind of defined the day there, because with that horse, all of a sudden you're in a completely different position. So for me, it was a tough 2 days, and it happens.
Yeah, no, it does. But I think you learned that, and I'm learning just listening to you talk about 2 entries, because I'm planning on having 2. I hope, anyways, that I'm lucky enough to have 2, and that makes a lot of sense. Maybe just play the same horses on the optionals and on the mandatories, then you can that will be your separation there. But you're right. If you don't have a decent day on Friday, you're chasing on Saturdays. And this past NHC on Saturday, we didn't see any cap horses the entire day.
Nope, not one.
No, that's unusual. I don't remember seeing that. So, okay, who are you going to use here? So we'll just talk about a pick 5 real quickly. Who do we have to use in this race? I'm going to assume we're going to try to beat the 3.
I'm going to try and beat the 3. I liked the 8 and the 10. With the 10 out, I'm going to end up going 3 deep here. I like the 8. I think coming off the layoff, you got a big shot at a pretty decent price. I am going to play the other Baffert, the 9 horse Sumo, who has pretty good workout reports in the morning. I like first-time Baffert starters. I'm not as interested in second-time Baffert starters. And the other horse I'm interested in here is Dixie's 2 Stents, the 4 horse. O'Neill got really aggressive with this horse. When you look at it, came out and ran 5 furlongs first effort, stretched out to 7 furlongs in the Del Mar Futurity, then went right up into the Breeders' Cup Futurity, back-to-back grade 1s for a maiden. Not really sure why we tried the turf. I mean, we are at a Quality Road, Dixie Union Mare, so there is some breeding for the turf there. But for me, I think the dirt sprinting is what this horse wants to do. And for the first time, really, since that first race, we're getting back to dirt sprinting. So, it's a horse that I think is getting back to what it's good at. And you got an 8 to 1 morning line or 6 to 1 morning line. And I think you're going to get every bit of that price. And so for me, I think the horse like the 4 is like wildly more interesting than the horse like the 3 Vito, who you're getting a significantly lower price on.
Yeah, it's the top GSR as well. And EquinEdge morning line is not liking it that much, but there's a lot of horses to bet in here. Sometimes what you'll see with the EquinEdge morning line is you'll see a higher morning line. What the odds makers is the fact that the odds maker was lower and we were a little bit higher doesn't scare me if you've got a horse like the 3 in here vetoed and the 9, and who's going to be taking so much action, right? And I even think Cali Bay is going to probably be taking some action too, and I'm going to try to beat that horse as well. So who do we have to use in here? We're going to use the 8, we're going to use the 4, we're going to use the 9. Definitely can't see us using the 2. We're going to try to beat the 3. 6 or 7, are they in the picture at all?
The 6 is interesting. Back-to-back bullet workouts. The problem is that Ryan Hansen's only 7% first time out, and Van Dyke and Hansen together, they have actually been pretty well, 25% over the past couple of years. But when you look at the workouts, so the workout report specifically for that last was that the horse was fully under pressure for the entire workout. And so when I see that, and then I see the bullet, and you see the 59, it galloped out in 59, I'm not impressed by a 46 when you're fully under pressure. I want to see that 46 when you're under control. And so the 6, I think, is one that's on the fence for me, but I'm leaning toward no, just because we do have horses like the 9 horse who has been doing 47s under complete control versus the 46 under full pressure.
Right, and the 9's got a good post too. I really like that post. Going to be showing some speed. Probably the horse to beat. The more we're talking about it, I just don't want to be remiss. I want to make sure that we're looking at all these horses. This one, tried to go gate to wire against a 44 group on the SOR. Looks a little bit weak in here to me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I hate it when you see the trainer just not really understanding what they want to do with the horse. So it debuts on turf going 5 at maiden special weight level, then goes on to dirt, drops down to 40,000 maiden claimers. Now we're jumping back up to the maiden special weight level. It doesn't seem like Glatt really understands what he wants to do with the horse. I think this horse is going to be another pace presence, but it's going to be really tough to hold on for the full 6 furlongs.
All right, so we're just going to use 3 horses then. We're going to try to beat the 3 horse vetoed, and we're going to just use the 4, 8, and 9. All right, so that's leg number 1. And by the way, too, I just want your opinion. Yesterday, many of us had the pick 5, early pick 5 over at Saratoga. and we singled the 2-horse in the last leg, and
Oh.
then Brad Ortiz scratched with like a minute or two. Like, what do you make of that? You're on the track, you're fine, and all of a sudden, 1 minute before the race, you decide that this horse, something's wrong with it and it shouldn't run, and then that literally cut us from all of us from making $2,750 for 50 cents down to 1,500 and change.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. It's almost like a bad beat in a way, especially if you don't like the favorite and you're like me and you're trying to chuck the favorite, and all of a sudden your single becomes the favorite. You're like, come on, like I didn't want that horse anyway. It's even worse when your horse scratches and you scratch into the bad favorite that you were trying to beat. It's frustrating. In pick threes and daily doubles, some tracks are going to have the Conso pick three or the Conso daily double. I would almost rather you go that route, but at the same time, if you have a Conso, it's going to hurt the payout for whatever horse wins the race. It just doesn't completely kill the payout for whoever goes off as the favorite, which to me is pretty frustrating. There's a lot of things that would be nice in horse racing. I'd love to be able to put alternates in, for instance. If my horse scratches at the gate, I'd love to have a horse I like versus just the post-time favorite. But we're just not, for some reason, we're not there with the technology, even though it seems like it should be really easy to get to that point by now. But it's frustrating. It's one of the frustrating things with horse players. You do everything right, and you're sitting there on a nice score, and you see your score get cut in half because the favorite scratches that you didn't want anyway.
Race number 2 here at Del Mar is a 32,000 claimer, 3-year-olds and upwards for a purse of 45,000. Nice purse here at Del Mar. We've had full fields at Del Mar, very competitive. Some people have complained. I would never complain about full fields, competitive racing, because you can find prices there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, give me more horses, the better, man. I would rather have 12 horses in every single race. Yeah, it makes it more difficult. And yes, you don't hit your pick 4s or pick 5s as often, but when you do, they pay more. And it makes it a lot harder for people to hit the all button and spread out to get to a long shot. So if you can peg a long shot, it makes that horse a lot more valuable when you have full fields. I think we're going to be pretty similar here, man. I liked the 6 and the 8. Those are my top 2 picks in this spot. It's good to see the Scotty picks up there as well. They both made sense to me here. The 8 horse off the claim for Mike Maker. I mean, what more do you need to say when he's claiming a turf horse? He's been absolutely on fire. I think we're getting back to the distance that this horse wants to. You've seen his form's been muddied up a little bit, going 1 mile and 1/8, mile and 16th. Cutting back to 1 mile today. The horse has hit the money 6 times out of 12 races, including 3 wins. So I like the Irish Heat Wave quite a bit. I hear you talking about Rispoli. He has been struggling a little bit. I've one of those jockeys where I've been questioning some of those rides, and that's not something I did previously because he had been absolutely on fire prior to it. And then Fly to Mars also just makes a ton of sense in this spot. Pratt's ridden this horse about 5 times, last 7 or 8 races. Every time the horse runs well, horse is 2 for 5 at Del Mar with an additional 2/3. 4 for the 11 at the distance. I mean, these 2 seem to be the standouts to me in this spot. I am going to spread a little bit more, but I think the 6 and the 8 are the top 2.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, so just so we don't miss anybody, we'll just we'll look here at the 7 horse for Anthony, and let's see here. What do you make of this horse, Ian Glass? I mean, this horse got one last 2 races back, going 6 furlongs. Now it's stretching out, so they've pretty much been sprinting. I'm looking back here at this January 31st race. It was against a similar group, and this horse is going to be forwardly placed. Didn't run good last time out, but if you look at the SOR was 66. So that was a tougher group and had trouble, which often horses will have trouble when they're facing tougher horses, but gets back to the right level. Ron Ellis has been really cold, as we know, and just can't, get through. But yeah, this horse is not a horse you look at and go has no chance.
I agree with you. I think that this horse is definitely one that I would consider. My issue is I would want like 10-1 on this horse, not 4-1. And that the price kind of pushed me away from Ian Glass here. That race at Santa Anita definitely gets the job done here. I mean, that's the scary part. If you run back that 87 buyer, the horse could get the job done. I agree that 1 mile is probably more where this horse wants. But I would much rather have second off a layoff staying in the same barn versus the horse being claimed and jumping into a new barn. I like that Franco rides through the claim. I think that's usually a positive. But Ellis is just 1 for 7 off the claim. And to me, I'd want more than the 4-1 price. And I think there are other couple really good horses in this race.
Yeah, and by the way, the EquinEdge morning line on this horse is 9-1. So yeah, you need about 10-1 odds. I would agree. That's the fair value that the system is saying. Also want to look at the 4 horse, which is the Scotty Longshot. You don't want to just throw these types of horses out. This horse broke 12 of 12 horses going 8 furlongs. 1 you're wide, 2 you break bad, but you only lose by 5 lengths at a similar company, coming back at the same surface and distance, got acclimated over Del Mar. This is just not a horse you just throw out.
I actually used this horse, so I'm glad we're going to talk about it. I thought this was actually a really interesting horse. Look, you have back-to-back Beyers 2-back that are good enough to win it going with the 86 Beyer 2-back. That race is good enough to win it in my mind. As you mentioned, there was some trouble. And to me, the big thing here is this is the first time we're going to drop this horse in for a price tag. Been running against non-winners of one and optional claimers and non-winners of one allowance. We've never had this horse in claiming before. That's an obvious drop in class to me. I think the 10-1 morning line is a nice price. So I use this horse in my pick 5. I think this horse has a chance to run very, very well today.
Agreed. Let's look real quickly at the Blameless, the 5 horse. This horse is only 1 win in 8 tries at the surface and distance, but does have a good GSR. Let's look at it closely a little bit. It's been burning some money. I just want to make sure that we just look at it. Is this a horse you can throw out? I mean, it's been burning a lot of money, hasn't it?
It has. When you look back, so this horse gets claimed for $40,000 2-back out of the Maker barn, and goes into a barn that's been unsuccessful so far at the meet, 0 for 4 with the Morphin barn. He's 22% overall, so you got to kind of look at this and say you might see some change there. But when you look at the races that fit, they were all in the Mike Maker barn. And Mike Maker is one of the elite turf trainers in America right now. And so when you're coming out of the Mike Maker barn, you're going into a separate barn, you got to be really good if you're expecting that same level of competition. I think we're having negative barn change here. This is one that I would kind of let beat me, especially when you have Valdivia up. There's not anything that's really pulling me toward the 5 horse at 8-1.
All right, and last one we're going to look at in this particular race. Well, there's one more I do want to look at. And Patrick is saying that he had a note in this horse. The horse had a horrible trip along the inside, and that was sprinting. Now this horse is stretching out. The GSR, it drops a little bit. This horse was in the grade 3 going 6 furlongs, lost by 5 lengths. The race before that, I mean, form-wise, this horse doesn't look bad. I mean, obviously 5 furlongs and 8 furlongs are 2 completely different things, but they might have given this horse that race last time out because it was off of a 5-month layoff.
Yeah, this to me is, I think they might have been trying to sneak one by, putting it in for 32. I mean, if you look back at who this horse faced back at Santa Anita, December 2019, ran in a grade 2 against Mo Fuerza, an Originaire, comes back, runs a $60,000 non-winners a 2, runs a 92 Beyer going a mile, by the way, career best Beyer at this distance, faces Selwood and Originaire again. You mentioned that grade 3. Well, that's Gregorian Chant, who has been absolutely wonderful. Sambaye, who's had a good career sprinting, and Jolie Olympica, all very good horses. Then you get first off that long layoff. I mean, you kind of draw a line through it and give the horse a pass. We're getting second off the layoff. I'm going to use the 3 in this spot. I think the 3 is really dangerous, and the trip trouble is dead on. That horse was steadied early, had a lot of trouble there, and then tried to make a move, didn't have a chance to actually get running until late in the race. So I think the 3 horse is one you got to use here.
Another thing I just noticed here too, you're talking about a horse that's had a lot of layoff lines. So it looks like now this horse maybe is fit and coming into maybe what could be its best performance. So the more I'm looking at this, I think Patrick's spot on, you're spot on. I think that the 3 must be used. So I'm going to use it for sure. I'm going to throw it in there for us. Must be used. I do want to look, I don't want to be remiss. I want to look at the top Scotty pick, or the top GSR. Let's just look at that really quick, just to eliminate it and make sure that we're not missing something. If there is a lot of pace in here, could you see this horse getting up? I mean, it is the top GSR.
I love the Black Album, so it's tough for me to leave this horse off. I was chasing this horse so much when it was in the early barns in its career. So Rudy Brissett had this horse and was running it in graded stakes back at Keeneland and on the East Coast. Goes to the Peter Miller barn, and it has some big races, but never able to get over that line. This horse just doesn't like to win. And when I'm looking at a closer, I want a closer that wants to get to the lead there. It seems more like a pack animal than a horse that really wants to kind of get past everybody, and that's a problem for me. The other issue here is the jockey. Barnett's 0 for 29 at the meet, only has 1 in the money finish at the meet, 2 for 62 on the entire year. This is the type of horse that needs a rider that's going to really be able to motivate the horse to get home. And I'm afraid we don't have that today. So I agree with the GSR. I think this may be the most just naturally talented horse in the race, but there's just too much against it for me to want to use this horse, even at 15-1. I think it's awfully telling. The win percentage is sitting up there at 1% too.
Well, it is. And I think that maybe this is the type of horse where you could get, 15, 20, 30-1. And this horse maybe is going to be in the money, so maybe used for the exotics.
It's also the horse I'd be interested if someone claims, right? If we get into a new barn, a new jockey, and we drop a little bit, I think this horse at a big price you could get next time out if we're able to get that type of scenario. Now, I'm not sure we get that scenario, but if we do get off the claim next time out and we get into the right spot, this horse has the talent, just the situation's not right today.
Yeah, and I'm going to put a note there because you can't be lazy with your notes, because these types of notes and what we're talking about is you want this to show up and go, hey, this is just somebody you should look at. Okay, so who are we going to use in here? We're definitely using the 4 horse. We're definitely using the 3. We know that. We're using the 6 and the 8. So it's just going to be those 4 horses, which the system is automatically using.
Those are the 4 that I would end up with. I do think you could make a case for the 7 if you really wanted to spread out a bunch, but the 7 again for me is someone at 4-1. I think is a little bit short.
Okay, let's just make a note of that. Let's see here. So just in case if we have the room to do it, can't fully ignore. All right. So these notes are really important. I made a big error yesterday. We had a horse in one of the turf races. I want to say it was the second to last race. I don't know. Maybe it was the last race. Mike Smith. We talked about this on my show yesterday. And Mike Smith, top win percentage, only 21%. How he just will take a horse on the turf especially and just sit back and then make a run. And you got to watch for him on long shots because they'll get up for the money. And the favorite won the race. I loved the favorite. And I didn't exact it to everybody breathing but him. And so sometimes we forget and things are moving so quickly that it escapes us. So it's important to put your notes down there so that when you're looking at this, you're going, oh, shoot, I better at least do some sort of cover.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's a great example of where you can create an exacta value with a favorite if you do find a horse like that who's just kind of flying late at a price.
Yeah, I paid $21 for that exacta. All right, so we're going to use a 3, 4, 6, 8 for now. Let's go to race number 3, a starter allowance $50,000, another good purse of $38,000, and the top GSR is Holding the Loot, and it's also the Scotty long shot. It doesn't have a good EquinEdge morning line, but I think because the 3 horse took charge is at 4-5, but this horse needs the lead in a race that seems to have some speed, and I'm not sure this horse is going to clear. What are your thoughts here?
I thought this race was a little bit wide open for the prices, but I didn't get too creative here. I did end up with took charge on top. I think he does make the lead. I think a key here is second off the layoff, and the fact that you're getting Pratt. I think you have to 100% expect this horse to send. And the rest of the speed in here just isn't that good. And the horses that I do think could press the pace early are 2 is outside, and the 4 Augusta Melody and the 6 Holding the Loot. So if the 3 is able to clear, I think it makes the 3 awfully tough. Again, I think this is the level that this horse fits in, right? It got claimed for $50,000, and now we're in the $50,000 starter allowance. This horse took 5 or 6 months off. I would expect to see a much better effort second off that layoff. And again, the fact that you get Pratt back, I think is a big determination here too.
Yeah, I'm going to run, it was somewhat accurate. We saw that, when we were over at the NHC, I mean, it was pretty accurate. Well, we're going to run this real quickly. And you can see here in the beginning, there's a wall of horses here, and the 4 horse has a slow. So we'll see what happens here. But now the 3 is coming on, but the 6 is showing some speed as well. So the simulation race is showing the 3 right there, but never really clearing. So I think what you have to look in this case is look at the 6, look at the 4, and see, do they need the lead? So when you see the 4 horse, and you look at a horse like that, this horse's best races are on the lead. I would think Abel Cedillo knows that. It's got some quality. It's the second Scotty pick, and this horse has burned money as well. This horse is sending. I have to believe this horse is going to send, and that could hurt the 3 because the 4 horse doesn't look like it can win if it doesn't clear. So that was just something to note. And then what was interesting to me was the 6 horse, the Scotty Longshot, because this horse showed really up on the simulated race near the pace, but it doesn't need the lead. So this race could set up, if the 3 and 4 duel, it could set up for Holding the Loot.
I agree with you. I think the 6 does logically make sense in here. The 4 is also a ship to win horse. I always look those horses closely here at Del Mar because I do think that you're seeing a lot of ownership groups and trainers trying to bring horses in to be able to get a purse bump bonus. And to do it this late in the meet is interesting as well. This year they offered 40% for the purses through the entire meet, every race you ran, versus just the first start. So it's bringing in Augusta Melody here and kind of having this is a chance to get that ship to win bonus I thought was interesting. But those races are at Churchill and Colonial, and that's kind of a cut below what you're expected to see here. The horse did show some early pace, and I think could be a challenge. But when I'm looking for speed, and I always look for inside speed first, and that's the one thing that's key to me here with the 3 Took Charge, is that he is going to get to the turn first. And so if Took Charge is able to get to the turn first, second off layuff as a 4-year-old, I'm pretty confident that you're going to see that horse to be in the lead going into the stretch. I think holding the loop makes a ton of sense here. I agree with you. The horse does not need the lead. It should be able to sit just off of a pretty decent pace, or just right behind those 2 horses. And the other thing to me that's kind of important here is that the 1, the 2, and the 5 don't have a ton of speed. So I think the 6 could totally trip out right behind the 1, right behind the 3 and the 4 who are showing the speed. And then you got to try and come and catch the 6. I think the 1 who you have on up right now, Kana, is the horse that could do that. But Kana is definitely going to be coming from a little bit from the clouds, and we're jumping up in class as well, which is something that, I don't love taking a short price when we're going up in class, especially when we weren't winning at the lower class.
I would agree. I put 1 best, but because I was really looking at the speed duel up here, but I'm probably going to change my pick. I think I'm going to go 6-1-3, but I'm just hoping for speed to collapse. But I will tell you this: aside from the last race yesterday on the dirt, speed was absolutely holding. But I think maybe towards later in the day, it normalized. So I'm not going to play the track to be fast today on the dirt. But it did play like a conveyor belt early on in the first 3 races at Del Mar on the dirt. Did you see that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I would always favor speed at Del Mar. I mean, traditionally, you can't go wrong saying that track is generally playing towards speed. So I kind of lean towards speed. I'll give it a slight edge at Del Mar versus other tracks where I may be a little more 50-50. But I do think that you're going to see some speed here.
Yeah, and I'm looking. I'm playing at another NHC qualifier, and I'm looking. I'm pretty sure it's part of this. Maybe it's not. Del Mar race number 3. No, race number 7. So it's not part of it. So I don't have to worry about that. Yeah, but I'm going to change my picks to 6-1-3 in here. Okay, who do we need to cover in here?
I would see this is one of those tough races. I would cover the 6 and the 3. I'd leave the 1 off, but I could make an argument as to why some people would include the 1.
Now, let me ask you a question. Let's just say it does happen. Let's just say the 4 is the Scotty's second pick, has an EE morning line of 4-1, has the second top GSR at 71. There's a big drop from the 6 and the 4 in GSR. A big drop. 3's not gone to service and distance yet. Do you see a scenario at all? Let's just say the 3 breaks a little bit slow and doesn't get the lead, and all of a sudden the jockey has to sit on flat has to sit on this horse. This horse seems to need the lead, but if there's anybody that can get a horse to rate that seems to need the lead would be Pratt, and he's very reliable out of the gate, no doubt about it. But what if the 4 does get the lead and Abel sends this horse and this horse clears? He's proven when he clears to be very, very tough. Could you see the 4 horse going gate to wire at all?
If the 3 has any issue, I could. If the 3 doesn't, I think it's going to be very hard for the 4 to hold on. And it's really comes down to what you think is going to happen early in the race. The 3 has never had any issue breaking, been first or second at every single first call in the form its entire career, been able to run 21-4 early when needed. I would be surprised if the 3 doesn't break. And if the 3 breaks, I think the 4 is in for a long day. Because if the 4 does need to send, which I agree with your argument that the ownership group might simply say, just go and see what happens on the 4. If the 4 does end up sending, it makes it a long day for the 3 as well. But I would say if I'm picking between the 2, I think the 3 is better than the 4. And again, the 3 is inside. And to me, inside speed, again, is a huge advantage. Because if you get to that turn first, you're the one on the rail. You're not the one being floated out. So I would take the 3 over the 4. If the 3 doesn't break, the 4 is dangerous. But the 3's broken every time, so it's tough for me to. No,
the 3 breaks good. I'm expecting a speed duel here, and I am, and I just that's what if they both break evenly, I think the 4 is equally as fast as the 3, and the 4 cannot win without getting the lead. So it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. The old saying that pace makes the race, and it absolutely does, no doubt about it. So it's going to be very interesting. The more we talk, the more I'm getting caught up on the 6 horse, who's not only the top GSR, been in the money in all 3 tries going to surface and distance. Is a price play. Scotty Longshot top GSR. I mean, there's a lot that's leaning here towards the 6 horse whole loose. So one that people should consider. For now, I'm just going to throw out the 2 and the 5 and just try to use these 4. We'll see what happens. But let's go on to race number 4. We've got a maiden claimer 20,000. I mean, I'm impressed with this purse of $25,000. That's not bad. And Delmar's just doing a good job. Look at this. We got a full field of horses. Scratches haven't come in yet that I can see. We'll get rid of these 1%, 50-1 on the EquinEdge morning line, things like that. The 3, not a great breaker, but top GSR by 5 points. Gone rogue. The EquinEdge morning line is 25-1, 10-1 on the odds makers morning line and John White, only 4%, but a top GSR. I didn't know what to make of this horse, but what are your thoughts on this race?
I thought the 3 was tough to get to. The horse seemed to like the turf more than the dirt, but ran well last time. But last time it also was a big time drop. I think that's what kind of changed the momentum there for the 3 Gone Rogue. My top pick here was the 8 horse. Can't Stop This Man. I like the fact that this horse was claimed out of Keeneland, shipped across to Santa Anita. I thought ran pretty well at the $50,000 level, going 7 furlongs. The model puts the horse on turf. The horse has no interest running on turf, so I can completely draw a line through that. It's also showed some speed in that race, which I like. I don't mind when you speed and quit, even if it's on a surface you don't like. We come right back here, and we get onto the surface that the horse wants. Can the Man is a son of Into Mischief. Can the Man's been a pretty good, successful sire, especially in some state bred programs down in Florida. So for me, I think Can't Stop This Man has a good shot of taking this field gate to wire. And when I'm looking at these lower level races, I want horses who are on the lead, especially going a mile at Del Mar, because I feel like you have a huge edge being speed in these Del Mar 2-turn races, especially again when no one really wants to pace, or no one really wants to pass anyone at this level. And so I'm going to lean toward the 8 here as my top pick. Now I'm rooting for that little square to get home.
Right. Well, the simulated race, I don't know about the 13 from the outside. That's a tough post to be in here going a mile. So it's the Scotty's second pick. I don't know if it's going to get scratched or not. Probably the type of horse I wouldn't play, although the horse is fast, and I'm assuming Abel Cedillo is going to send. Interestingly, the 5 horse, who's 5-1 in the EquinEdge morning line, has a decent GSR. KP Silver Bullet. What do you think of this 3-year-old gelding?
This is one of the horses I was planning on using. Interesting form line. I mean, it was claimed out of its first race for $30,000, gets reclaimed, or gets claimed right out of the next race for $50,000, moving it up. And then the claim gets voided last time out, first time off the layoff for $40,000. So this is a really popular horse in the claim box. This is second off the layoff, something that I think is one of the best angles in horse racing. You often see logical improvement second off the layoff. I think the horse is going to like the mile distance as well. It has not stretched out to 2 turns yet, but it doesn't have enough speed to sprint. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems when you look at these running lines. It's 8, 9, and 10 lengths back in its 3 races, first call, but all of those are in 22 and 3 or sub first quarter. So a horse is going to be, your KP Silver Bullet is going to be coming from off the pace, but it's not going to be as far back as you see in these sprint races because the fractions are going to be, 1 to 2 seconds slower, which equal 5 to 10 lengths in horse racing.
I agree. Should be much closer to the pace and looks like a horse that wants to go 2 turns. And the GSR is a 63. Let's just see. So, I mean, it looks like this horse can do anything. 5 furlongs, 7 furlongs, 5.5, 8, 8.5. So, I don't, this horse, and I think this horse is going to be closer to the pace too. Should be closer to the pace. I'm going to start making sure my notes are clear. So when I get to the betting side of this, I'm really paying attention. It really upset me yesterday not having Mike Smith in that second spot. That exacta paid $21. It was free money. Is there anybody else in here we should look at?
I kind of like the 6, all about the money. Son of Into Mischief. This horse was gelded and then came back for 1 start. In that 1 start, didn't run great, going 7 furlongs at Santa Anita. Then takes 3 months off, comes back in August, runs at a lower level, $40,000 maiden claimers, shows some pace, and then kind of quits off of it. This time we get this horse down to 20,000, which I think is probably the level that fits, but it was able to take a step up, going a mile from a buyer perspective, running a 69 last out. I think if you improve here, the 6 horse is right there, if not the main competitor in this spot. So for me, I was 6 and 8 is the must-use horses, and then 5 was my next one in. I thought the 2 was a little interesting as well. This horse has run 2 times at a sprint, 1 time at a route. It was bet when it was routing, which I thought was interesting. We were also gelded, which is an angle that I like. Rispoli picks up the mount for Eric Kuliak. They weren't great, or haven't been great this meet. But those 2, that combination at Santa Anita have been absolutely on fire. 29% with a $3.59 ROI. I like the fact that Rispoli rides this horse back. I think this horse should be better going 2 turns here. So I thought the 2 was a little interesting at a price as well. But for me, I was 865 as the horses I thought you had to use.
And I would agree with you too. And the 2 horse going 5.5 furlongs last time out against a tougher group, an SOR of 46. This race is a 40. Broke from the rail, broke 7th, and really is running like a horse that wants to go 8 furlongs. And there was a runaway winner 2 back at a $40,000 level. Now in for 20. I think the 2 is extremely live. You're getting 8-1. The EquinEdge morning line is 10-1, so it's right there. So 2 horse has got to be used as well. So I would agree with that. And by the way, just a note on the 6 horse. Many times when horses come to go in for a tag, it takes them a while, but you can see as this horse was dropping in for a 40 tag, got closer in the stretch, right? And then this is the 3rd race off a layoff. So I think that the 6 horse is live too. So I would agree with you there. Any long shots that we need to consider, because this race seems wide open, especially on the win percentages?
I do think that the 10 is a little bit interesting. I know someone just brought him up in the chat. I think we should at least take a look at that horse. I'm not sure it wants dirt, but for me, the biggest issue is the post position. It's really tough winning from the 10 post at Del Mar going a mile because that turn comes up so quickly. So you have to kind of somehow trip out if you're going to be able to get it done. But I think the 10 going from that maiden special weight level all the way down to maiden 20, it at least raises your eyebrow, you know?
Yeah. The breeding on this horse is, average, but this horse actually has showed some speed even while breaking slow and then kind of rushing up and then petering out. But and that was a 56 group. This is a 40. So this is now it was on turf, but this is a really big drop. And I hate that. If this horse had 6 posts, 2 posts, 1 post, anything other than this, I'd be all over it. I mean, I just don't know what to make of that post, but this drop might be so much that this horse wins this race. But I think that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I think this horse has to be looked at. Big drop, big drop.
Yeah, I mean, going from maiden special weight to maiden claiming is the biggest drop in racing. And when you've seen a horse show some ability there, you kind of, even though you think it might be the wrong surface and the post sucks, you're kind of like, maybe we should,
Yeah, and Jim's point is, the eligible horses too. You want to watch those closely too. Okay, real quick, we're going to go over to Saratoga race number 3 that's coming up. I want to see how we did in race number 2. Okay, so I thought that 2 was a single that didn't win. I'm a little scared for me right now. The 5 horse didn't win like one I thought was a Rozzy. So I don't even know what to think now. What do you think about race number 3? We'll just go with what you said.
So it's interesting. You mentioned the scratch of the 9 was key. It was key. The 4 horse Roaming Union got the lead and wired the field. So the 4 horse got the lead instead of the 8, and that's how the 4 horse was able to get the job done. Race 3, I think, is really interesting at Saratoga. Cody's Wish is running in this race, and I have been talking about the race where the first race of Cody Wish's career, where Mahamel, Asking for Baskin, and Cody's Wish all came out of that same race. All have monster Tomlinson numbers. All got 90-plus buyers for a maiden special weight. None of them have won since. It's one of those races on paper. It looks amazing, but in real life, it was not that good of a race. And all of these horses have come back to lose. Cody's Wish, the 6 horse, is your current 6-5 favorite. The 7 Pipeline, really interesting to me. Last time ran against Vindictive. Vindictive came back to win out of that race. And then the 1 horse, North Carolina, I think is really interesting as well. The horse showed some talent and got bet. But to me, the key here is that Barkley Tag and Jose Ortiz do not team up very often. Jose Ortiz has been riding this horse in the morning for all of the workouts. And so when I see Jose Ortiz riding in the morning for Barkley Tag, and he rode the horse for the Shug Barn in the first start, Jose Ortiz clearly thinks this horse has some talent. We're getting 5-1 on the board right now.
So you can see the simulated race is saying that the 6 horse is going to finish, and the 3 and 4 and 7 are right there. The thing about it is you're right about Cody's Wish. I can't play a horse like this. I mean, yes, it has had trouble in both starts. Look at the breeding on this. Look at the GSR. Very rarely do you see that 79 and 84. I guess maybe you can look at this horse and go, it's had trouble in 2 times, but breeding on this horse is tremendous here on the dirt. So we'll see what happens here. But maybe the 3 and 4 sticky issues, 37-1. And I don't know why the system says this horse might run better than last. Obviously had trouble in its first two starts as well. Peter Walder's been on fire, and Ubiquitous. I thought the 3 could run. 6 horse, I did like the 6 on top, and then 7. I thought maybe gets up for a piece. I actually think the 6 probably is the horse to beat. But maybe the 3 could run better, and the 4 Ubiquitous.
I was interested in the 4.
And,
Second off the layoff, faced Soup and Sandwich first time out, who ended up in the Derby. So obviously you have a pretty good opponent there. In my multi-race bets here, I used 147.
All right, so let's see. Let's watch this this race. They're going into the gate right now, and God, a horse like the 6 just kills you, right? Because it's 6-5. It's still green. Obviously, he's green, but the breeding on this horse is tremendous for Villamont. Rosario jumps aboard. I guess with a good break, we'll see what happens. But I don't think the 7. I think the 7's going to come up for a piece late, not very fast. So we'll see what happens here in race number 3 from Saratoga.
Pipeline breaks on the top. Now moving up is a Waxman. It is Waxman and Pipeline. Sticky issue is there, along with Ubiquitous. And down at the rail is North Carolina.
The 7, Mike, is just getting a perfect trip, way closer to the pace than I imagined. And when you break good like that, and then you just sit like that from the outside, especially going here the 7 furlongs or a 1-turn mile. I mean, you would think the 7's gonna looks really tough here right now, right?
He looks pretty loaded. He has not asked that horse to do a step of running, and you'd expect that if you're just sitting 3 wide and it's chilly on the horse, you'd think that you're going to see a nice little spurt here at the top of the lane. 2 horses also getting a pretty good trip.
2 horses sitting, but being asked a little bit. But how about the 3? The simulated race having the 3 and 4 on the lead early.
Yep. The 6 is making a huge move on the outside, but the 7 still is not moved at all.
The jockey on the 7 is just really chilly right now. Maybe almost too chilly. But he's pulling away.
Yeah.
Good effort by the 2's been all out. It's going to be 7-6 here, I would imagine. But the 2 really ran a good race. 6 horse burning money again. Second choice is 5-2. Chad Brown, John Velasquez getting the win. And very close here. It looks like the 2 is going to hold on over the 6 horse. So 6 horse, I'm going to make a note of that. I'm going to put there. I'm going to just call it no speed and money burner, because that horse didn't break bad.
No, he didn't break bad. And it goes to show, if you can find a race to fade, and you can fade that race. This literally, those 3 horses have run. I think so. Mahamo came back the first time and faced. Bolium. And so Bolium blew him out. Mahama was, I want to say, like 4-1 in that spot. Asking for a Baskin has lost twice at this meet. Mahama has lost twice at this meet. And now Cody's Wish has lost twice at this meet. Every single time the horse has gone off at 5-1 or less. It's the second time Cody's Wish has gone off as a favorite.
So who are we going to use in here in our pick 5? Because that's the tough one. I don't even know if you and I are going to agree on this one. What are we going to do?
Oh man, okay. So race 4. I mean, I think you got to go 2, 5, 6, 8. I think those are probably the 4 that make the most sense to me. I think you could go 5, 6, 8 if you wanted to shorten it up, but the 2 horse it scares me a little bit.
All right, I would agree. By the way, that 2 horse does scare me. We got to use that horse. How about the system used this horse roadside. Let's look at how we eliminate a horse like this. Yes or no on this horse?
I mean, this is one of those that I could make a case could wire the field, and that's how roadside ends up winning this race. You're breaking from the 1 post. You've got a 104 early time form rating. You've got a bug jockey up. Beat the 2 horse by 8 lengths last time out. $310,000 purchase that's in for $20,000 is not great. I mean, you could make a case that the 1 could wire this field, but the horse needs to get loose. It's never been loose in its life. But if the 1 horse gets loose on the lead, it could be tough.
It's on the inside, and which is huge. So even though the system's not showing it on the lead right now,
you would think it's going to be.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, the jockey could send and going to be on the inside, and it could send. Jessica, of course, is aboard, and she's very aggressive. But there does seem to be some other horses that might send. You got the there's some sprinters stretching out too. I would imagine the 8's going to go. I don't think they're giving this 1 an easy lead. I don't know. I'm going to let you call this one. We can't use everybody, but I'm okay leaving the 1 out. And the EquinEdge morning line on the 1 is 10-1. But I'm not even going to take that as a negative, by the way, because if you look at the EquinEdge morning line right here, it's not really settling on anybody. It's got 3-1 on the 8 horse and 7-2 on the 13. I mean, and then the 5 horses 5-1, and then it's just wide open. So, and those horses don't necessarily need to win this race.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's also a little muddied up, I'm assuming, by the AEs being in there, because you have the 13 Tis Victorious, who would be the favorite in this race if it draws in. So that kind of muddies up the morning line aspect of it as well. I mean, if I would say, well, let's put them all.
By the way, I like this right now. I like that it's on you right now. This is great. I've always got this pressure, right? Because I'm going to be like, well, Mike didn't use the horse. What can I say?
Let's put 1, 2, 5, 6, 8 in for now, and
1,
then
2, 5, 6?
1, 2, 5, 6, 8.
1, 2, 5, 6, and 8. All right. Yeah, by the way, too, I mean 50-1 on the morning line, EquinEdge morning line on the 9. So try to beat that horse. I think you've got the right horses, honestly. Yeah, I do. And you want to use the 1? Okay, so you want to use the 1. So 1, 2, 5, 6, 8. Gone Rogue. Second time, dropping in class. Oftentimes the horse will improve, but this horse is not a good breaker, and really has been losing pretty badly here. The only race this horse really ran good was a decent on the synthetic. So, and that was the lowest GSR. So, a big no on this one. The Dan Blacker and Joe Bravo.
To me, the horse is just too slow. When we're going a mile on Del Mar's dirt, you got to be forwardly placed to be able to win the race. And this horse is sitting anywhere from 5 to 8 lengths back at first call, and there's a 24-second quarter. So I think the 3 is going to have too much work to do. I wouldn't be like, this is one great example, and I think I talk about this quite a bit. If you're betting multi-race sequences and you're betting win bet, or you're betting trifectas, 2 completely different handicapping styles, right? I don't think I wouldn't use the 3 in multi-race bets. I think the 3 could definitely show in this spot. I would use them in tries and supers, but I would leave the 3 off. I think he's just going to be too far back with too much to do early.
The only thing that scares me about a horse like this, it just happens all the damn time. You got the top GSR here, right? And he's not that far off on the simulated race, even though the running lines look absolutely horrible. So just one to consider. We'll just put there. And yeah, only 1 race at the conditions too. So it's not like, and the horse has only had 6 lifetime races. So it's not like it's not been a money burner per se, because it's not really gotten bet. It'll be interesting to see if this horse gets bet, right? Watch to see if it gets bet.
Yeah. And Bravo has been riding very well at Del Mar. I mean, he's clicking off at like 20% or something at this point. So I've been impressed with what he's been able to do on horses.
Yeah. Matt Nakatani is doing a really good job with that book. He's got Mario Gutierrez as well, friend of mine, and he's doing a really good job. So I'm happy for Matt. Okay, let's go to race number 5. I'm going to regenerate this real quickly using 1, 2, 5, 6, 8. I didn't miss anybody, right? Those are the ones, correct?
1, 2, 5, 6, 8. Yep.
1, 2, 5, 6, 8. Okay. Race number 5, allowance optional claiming of 80,000. Non-winners are 1. Filly's 3 years old, $72,000 purse. They're going 8.5 furlongs starting from the chute on the turf.
Gotta love it, right?
Yeah. I mean, is it Queen Goddess? Is it as simple as Queen Goddess? I wasn't sure. Top GSR, EE Morning Lines, even money. Top Scotty Pick, 50%. I mean, a lot is lining up towards Queen Goddess.
It is. I agree with you. I'm going to go with Moraz, the 8.
I like Moraz as well.
I would be interested to see what the GSR here is, because I think this is a big-time surface switch. For me, a lot of times connections get really caught up in going to the Kentucky Oaks or Kentucky Derby. And when I look at a horse like Moraz, I see connections that got caught up in going to the Kentucky Oaks to Kentucky Derby. This is a horse that ended up in the Kentucky Oaks at the start of the year. Ran well going through the entire first part of its career, ended up in grade 3 competition, grade 2 competition, and obviously grade 1 competition. This horse has a lot of talent. They thought very, very highly of this horse. When you look at the breeding, Empire Maker out of an AP Indy mare, can handle either surface. And if we take to the turf here, I think you have 4 races in Moraz's back races that is the best in this entire field. So to me, the main question is, do you take to the turf? Because if you do, the 8 is really, really difficult. And I respect Michael McCarthy more than a lot of trainers. I think he's a very good horseman. I think he knows what he's doing. He's 17% off these type of layoffs. He's 14% first-time turf. The other thing that's interesting here is that you're getting Lasix back on this horse. The horse has only had Lasix once before, ran one of its career best efforts. So I think there's a lot of things that point you toward the 8, and I think you might be able to get a little bit of a price. I mean, it's 5-2 morning line favorite, but I would hope that we can get, maybe 3-1 just because of the surface switch.
Yeah, Umberto rides back as well, and I agree. Throughout the Kentucky Oaks, that Grade 1 race, I mean, I just don't think this is that caliber. I mean, she's supposed to win that race in the St. Isabel, right? Grade 3 race, and loses that race having the lead. To me, that kind of told me that maybe she's not at, the level of the graded horses, maybe a Grade 3 horse. I don't see a Grade 2. She is lightly raced, and there's upside for Queen Goddess. But the thing is that she was losing ground. She was hand urged pretty big. She's kind of a one-paced horse, right? So, I mean, I don't think that Queen Goddess has to win this easy, and she better get a good trip as well. So I would agree with you, Mraz. What about this Scotty Longshot, Sweet Pearl, who's also a price play? You think you give this one any kind of look?
So I looked at this horse for a little bit. This is one of the times where I went back and I looked at the software, and I'm not sure how to get to this horse. I mean, all the efforts in the Gulfstream turf just aren't good enough to win against this group. You look at some of the efforts where the best races were run. It was a couple of them were back at Gulfstream Park West on the turf. I realize that you're dropping in class. We were in the Indiana Oaks last time out of Grade 3. You're getting a barn switch. But they had this course in for a tag back for $75,000 was claimed to Churchill. They put it into the Indiana Oaks. Now we're going on to turf and putting it back in for a tag. We're adding blinkers. Just seems like a lot's going on here. And I think this is actually a pretty good field. And so for me, it's one of those situations where this is one of the races where I think you got 2 or 3 horses that you can use, and you don't really need to use anyone else. And I'd be very surprised if someone like Sweet Pearl won. I'd be pretty surprised if the 5 or the 8 didn't win, to be honest.
You know what? I'm with you. I think this is I think it's 5-8, 8-5, one of those two, and I'm not even sure which one I'm going to lean towards. But yeah, I don't see it as well. I just was surprised that it used Sweet Pearl, because there are many horses it could have used here for the Scotty Longshot, but it chose that. And then another algorithm actually had this horse as a price play. So maybe the 7 for the exotics. Just look for exotics. So one to look at for that. But as far as the win goes, I think this is strictly between the 5 and the 8. But I am gonna go over a horse here. Look for exotics. I want to make sure I get my notes. So the 6 horse. Let's talk about this horse. I've been a fan of this horse from day one. This horse has cost me so much money. EquinEdge morning line, 6-1 from 5-1 odds maker. John White morning line. Look at my notes. Terrible ride, very nice horse. Hard one to trust at this point. I mean, this one had no excuses last time out, and now it's dropping from 80. Look at the breeding on this horse has been tremendous, but it's dropping from 83, 81, 80, 83 GSR to a 63 GSR today. Is this a horse we can just throw out? I mean, is this horse all of a sudden Joe Bravo's aboard? I know for Walter Solis, but Walter not hitting at a high percentage. He's got some nice horses, but I think I personally, and just my humble opinion, I think Walter's been overplacing his horses.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then you can tell that by the win percentage. I mean, when you have a trainer who is pretty talented, who's hitting at 5% of the meet, you generally means either the barn's just ice cold and getting bad racing luck, or you're being a little too aggressive with your horses. And I think it's the latter in this situation. I'm surprised that the GSR drops that much, to be honest with you. American Pharoah has been better with turf horses than dirt horses. Ghost Sapper obviously is good with either surface. So I was surprised that the turf, there was that big of a drop off from dirt to turf, but I mean, clearly 85 dirt, 69 turf. So kind of favoring here toward the dirt side with the GSR. I can't get to the 6.
I think a good number. It's still 69 is a good number on turf. It shouldn't throw anybody off, but there's just some, there's some nice horses in here. If you look at that, I mean, 63 at this surface and distance, though, right? So, but the horse, it's not like the horse doesn't have turf breeding, but and maybe it'll like turf more. I mean, that could happen. But when you're running and disappointing and burning money with these 80 GSRs, and now you're dropping to a 63, I'm just saying, from that perspective, it's a tough horse for me to use.
Yeah, and you also have to work out a trip here if you're Fee Fi Pharaoh. I mean, not a ton of early speeds. This horse is going to be having to come from off of the pace in a race where I don't see a ton of horses that really want to go. I mean, the 2 horses that have the most speed are the 5 and the 8, or the 8 and the 5, and they're coming out of the same barn. So the likelihood that you're going to get a pace duel between 2 horses in the same barn is very low, and so the 6 is going to have quite a bit of work to do. to the GSR's credit, I think the one that's interesting is a 3-horse Miss Bella Ciao. If you want to make a case for that horse, I think you can. The last race was solid, ran behind Go Big Blue Nation, who's a pretty good horse out there in California in that optional level. Broke its maiden going the distance at a mile, has run pretty good races, was able to attract Irad Ortiz first time out. So the Drysdale thinks something of this horse. Pratt second time out, and now Pratt gets back aboard. I would say that's the other one that I'd show some interest in, but I have the same concerns that there's just going to be too much to do for the 3-horse Miss Bella Ciao here, who has been coming from 4 or 5 lengths off the pace when you're running 49 and 48 second halves. This to me seems like it's going to favor the horses who are close, and I think that's going to be the 5 of the 8.
I always get worried about a horse like this that are lightly raced because they can improve, no doubt about it. But if you just look at what this horse has done, didn't do any good facing horses in their 56 in the SOR, drops to a 42 SOR over Golden Gate and wins for fun. That was just a much easier group. Went off at 80 cents on the dollar and won the race. Didn't run a bad race in its second start, going 9 furlongs, and lacked room late. That was a 56 group. So from that perspective, it gives me a little bit of hope. But this horse is 7-2 on the morning line, but 7-1 on the EquinEdge morning line. You know what? I mean, I'm going to lean towards the exotics with that horse as well. It's going to be 5 or 8. So we'll just use those 2 horses here in this race. And for those of you that can afford this ticket, it's $120. But you can. Well, what did it change? It just changed something. Okay, who did we use?
Second race. I think we had 6, 8.
I didn't lock the race. So remind me who we used. I know we used the 3. We used the 4.
Oh, 3, 4, 6, 8. Right.
3, 4, 6, 8. Okay, that's right. And we talked maybe about the 7. So this is going to be too expensive of a ticket. So, all right, we got 5 and 8. 1, 2, 5, 6, 8. I think this speaks to what this. I worry about tickets like this because you could literally get all favorites in these races as well and not even get your money back. This type of sequences, sometimes you can look and go, these favorites are vulnerable, they're not winning, and prices are going to come. That's not entirely the case here. So how do you approach races like this where you got a $240 ticket knowing very well that every favorite could win?
I mean, I would cut leg 3 down. To me, I think that's the leg where we're too deep in leg 3. And so one of my general rules is don't use if you use over half the field, you should be hitting the all button. In leg 3, we're using 4 of the 6 horses. To me, I would use the 3, who I think is the best horse, and the 6, who is that Sky Longshot that we talked about, who I think is going to sit the right trip. I don't like the 4 as much, who's going to come from who's going to challenge the 3 early, and I would rather have the 6 than the 1. So that right there cuts us down to 120. And then I think if you want to cut it a little further, you make a choice in race 4 between the 1 and the 2. We used them both. I think you could make a case for either.
Which one do you like better?
I would take the 1 over the 2. I think. Just looking back, the 1
Scotty Longshot. It is the Scotty Longshot for sure. It's not coming out of a strong race, and it only faced 4 horses. It really has not faced that many horses, and it lost to a runaway winner, and it beat 3 other horses, right? So,
but
I don't
one
love
of the horses.
It's the Scotty Longshot, though.
One of the horses it beat was the 2 horse, and so that right there is to me, okay. If I have to choose between the 2, and one of them just beat the other by multiple lengths, and I think that the 1 could have a speed edge, and I want to be on the rail with speed at Del Mar going a mile, I would go with the 1 over the 2.
All right, it is a Scotty Longshot as well. So okay, fair enough. So we're going to eliminate that horse, regenerate. That gives us a $96 ticket. We need to eliminate. Let's just say we're going to eliminate 1 more horse. Who's it going to be? Let's see. We got in the first leg. We've used the 4, 8, and 9. I don't know that there's anybody else to eliminate there. I mean, Solomino's kind of dead, but 15%. I couldn't eliminate this horse. I will say this though: what is your take on horses cutting back in distance from 8 furlongs as an example here? Right. Now this horse had trouble, exchanged bumps, added blinkers, and then changed. Are they taking the blinkers off? They're not taking the blinkers off, which I think is a positive sign. So maybe some other things happen in the race, but I like to see horses that show a lot of speed going longer and then they cut back. But this horse did exchange bumps at the turn, lugged out, stuff like that. But when you start seeing lugging out, now you're sprinting. I don't know, what are your thoughts here?
So if I saw this same same running line and the horse came back in a month, I'd be concerned. Because I agree with you. I'd rather see more speed early, even though this horse did show speed going 5.5 on the turf, which is generally the fastest races of any horse race. But the fact that we had over a year off here and we're coming out first time in the 4-year-old season, 22% for D'Amato off that type of layoff, I'm willing to excuse a lot of that stuff because you have a year for this horse to mature and kind of learn what it's doing. You should see a much different racehorse, a much more mature racehorse with the 8. It's one of the reasons I actually like the 8. So I think if we cut, we got to go to leg 2, and I don't know who to cut in leg 2.
We got 3, 4, 6, and 8.
I mean,
that's a
I like
tough one.
I like 6 and 8 the most. I think 3 is really dangerous. I like the price on the 4. I would probably cut the 3 over cutting the 4. So I would end up with 4, 6, and 8 here if I was going to cut somebody.
That's a really tough one, man. Oh man. Second off the layoff on the 3. Let's go to leg number 4 real quickly. Let's see if we can cut one of those. The All About the Money, the 1 horse.
You know what we could do, Scotty? So we're looking at this sequence, and we're saying, okay, how do we sequence this? What if we singled the 6 in leg 3?
It singled the 6 in leg 3. What if we cut the 6 horse out in race number 4? All About the Money, who's 7-1 on the EquinEdge morning line.
We could take out the 6 there too.
But I'm good either way. But this horse has got a couple of 4th place finish, is dropping to 20,000, but that 40,000 race wasn't that great. And a lot of times you'll see that here, 20,000, 40,000. There's not much difference. Was 4-1. I mean, this horse is not running at all and really hasn't faced that many horses. And when you look, if you look here, 7 horses in the race got 4th by 11. 10 horses in the race got 9th. 6 horses in the race got 5th. 6 horses in the race got 4th by 15. Only 4 other horses in the race and lost by 30. You know what I mean? Like, this horse is just not running.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I'm comfortable getting rid of the 6 because the 8 beat the 6 last time out or 2 back as well. So that's another one that I don't mind leaving off.
And then, but let's just look. Because you like Took Charge. So I think this is the better way to go. This is a reason I do like at 72. Yeah. What's that?
I was going to say, I do like Took Charge. It's one of the things we talked about this year. If you like, when we talk about singling, holding the loot is a much better single than Took Charge. And if you want to be able to spread out in other places and you want to single holding the loot, you can create a lot of variance versus every other ticket that you're facing by singling holding the loot, who's I think 6-1 morning line, and then you can use every other horse you want and still keep it in budget. I do like the 3. I would be I would be scared to leave that 3 off because I do think it's the best horse in the race.
All right. So, okay, this is the ticket, $72 play. If you want to cut it from there, depending on your budget, understand. But we're lowering this low enough that we think we could still win the race. Now, don't forget, you're going to get chalk in the last leg for sure. We're here in this race. We've got chalk on the 5 and 8. So the 1 horse would be our best chance of getting a price. The 6 horse would be our best chance of getting a price here. So there is chalk in this $72 play. 3, 4, 6, 8. You got chalk. 9's going to be scratched. We would need the Scotty long shot to win the race number 2. So there's a lot of, it's one of those situations, Mike. You see what I mean? Like, and then you've got here the 4 horse who's 6-1 top GSR. So that's a price there. We're going to try to beat Vetoed, who's kind of lukewarm. Sumo's probably the horse to beat. I think we both agree on that. So, yeah, I think this is, no matter what, this is not going to pay good. Like, when you look at this and you look at it from this perspective, would you even play this ticket? Or is it more really playing verticals is the better way to go? But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, this is pretty much all chalk.
It depends on what the 3 horse gets bet down into in the first race. If the 3 horse goes off around even money, I think it's worth playing the ticket because I think that 3 is going to be one of the more singled horses in the entire sequence. If not, then I think what you can do is you can shorten this down too and say, hey, I'm going to play a $5 pick 5, and I'm going to single the 3 horse in leg 3. I'm going to single the 8 or the 5 horse, whoever you like, in leg 5. And I'm going to trim down leg 4 and then kind of just figure out, okay, how can I play a $60 $5 pick 5 versus a 50-cent $72 pick 5?
Fair enough. Okay, let's go on to race number 6. We've got all right. So we're gonna move quicker here. My best bet of the day was Thirsty Always, the 7-horse. What do you think about this one? Non-graded stakes race. Showed some speed in the best pal, which was much tougher than what these other horses have come out of, in my opinion. But I'm curious about yours.
I thought Thirsty Always was definitely a player. I like the fact that we show speed and then was faded off. I think you got a nice jockey upgrade here to JJ Hernandez, so I like all of that. It was a used horse for me. My top pick here was the 3-horse Joker Boy. I like it when you see professional efforts from horses being able to close. Practical Joke is one of those sires who's been absolutely on fire. Second out is normally a big improvement angle for me. So I'm hoping that the 3 can take a big time step forward because like the 5-horse makes a ton of sense. I understand why people would want to play it. I got no interest at 9 to 5. To me, I'm going to try and get a price here. I'm going to go with the 3 6 to 1.
And Rock and Ride literally beat 3 horses last time out. Like, I mean, there's just no way of knowing it. Did it impressively, no doubt about it. Have to give him credit for that. Probably the horse to beat. I don't know, but I really like Thirsty Always. I like the race this horse came out of. The race prior to that at Pleasanton was much better than looked. And I think this horse was dueling from the inside. And I think this horse can run a good race back. So and is faster than Rock and Ride. So. And they're going 6 furlongs. I think this one's going to get first run, but Joker Boy. So coming out of a race, this is so. First of all, maidens, the horses that break their maiden come back to win. We did a statistic and found out that it's about 5% of the time. And this horse is coming out of a 42 SOR. So just to play devil's advocate on you, you have to really like a horse like this to pick it in a race like this. What is it about this horse that you fell in love with?
So I like horses that are professional. I think you're gonna have a ton of speed in this spot. It's gonna set up for someone who can come off the pace. We know that Joker Boy can do that. I also think that race was sneaky good that he's coming out of. So the second place finisher came back and ran 4th. Okay, fine. The 3rd place finisher, Moose Mitchell, is in this race. The 5th place finisher came back and won a $70,000 maiden special weight. And the last place finisher came back and ran 3rd in a $70,000 maiden special weight. So the entire race has been productive next time out. And when I'm looking at 2-year-olds, one of the biggest things I want to see in these 2-year-old stakes is how did everyone run in the race that you won? Because a lot of times that can tell you as much about the horse as what the buyer figure is, things like that. I want to see who placed a good group of horses. And when you have a next out winner, another horse that's in the stakes, and the last place horse runs 3rd in 70,000 maiden special, I think all of that shows you that was actually a little better group than it looked like on paper.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's great information too. So with young horses, you're really looking to see how the horses have come out of the race, so you can kind of get a feel for what these horses have been facing. So Joker Boy, Mike's pick, 7's my best bet. You weren't really that high on the 5. I'm not really that high on the 5. So I think we're gonna go 7-3. 3 7.
Sounds good.
Well, yeah.
Okay. I like it. Yeah, I'd rather the 7 and the 5 are out of the same barn, and I would rather take the bigger price. And I think it shows that even the trainer thinks the 5's a little vulnerable, considering he entered his 2nd horse here.
2's going to get scratched. You can see that. By the way, you might want to put a note on that 2-horse Freedoms. This horse popped up for me 11 points higher in GSR from last race to this, but it's asking a lot. But watch for this horse going 6 furlongs. This horse can actually run and get a price, but this was a smart scratch. This race came up very tough, so Freedom's score is going to be scratched. So you can see that it has no EquinEdge morning line. All right, let's go on to race number 7. And I had 3 horses in here. I had Floral Essence. I had Summer Daisy, Focaccia as well. And I had those 3 horses. That's what it looked like to me. I really liked the race that Summer Daisy and Floral Essence came out of in that maiden race. I mean, first time for Summer Daisy. I thought it was an impressive effort. Was a little bit wide. And then Floral Essence kind of lacked room, steadied a little bit. That horse looked good too. I thought it was those 2 horses, and I thought the 6-horse Focaccia was a horse you just couldn't sleep on. What are your thoughts here?
I had Focaccia as a must-use. I thought Focaccia is really interesting. Faced some pretty good horses in its first 3 starts. Now you're getting first off the layoff. I love Nyquist as a sire. The horses seem to like the turf. So I think the 6 is really interesting and really live here. I went to the 4-horse. This is the other horse I kind of feel like you almost have to use. The trip was not great first time in North America here. Now you're getting 2nd off of a layoff. You get Pratt aboard. The horse it had to go so wide and try and close. And then you look at what the last quarter of a mile went in, right? They went 23-2 in that last quarter of a mile. It is tough to close into a 23-2 final quarter of a mile. So I thought that he ran into a slower pace and was able to close ground, which I think is an important thing in turf racing. So the 4 Buzz of New York and the 6 Focaccia were the 2 horses that I ended up focusing on in this spot.
So you'll try to beat Summer Days in Fluorescence with either the 4 Buzz of New York or the 6 horse Focaccia. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Mike 6 and 4. Okay. All right, so I'm going to eliminate these horses real quickly. The Rhythm and Grace, the 7. Just tell me why the 5 horse looking to get even, as well as the 7 horse Rhythm of Grace. Tell me why they can't win this race.
The 7 horse can. Only was a length and a quarter behind the 4 horse last time out, but I thought got a significantly better trip. So I give the 4 an edge over the 7 coming out of that last race. I think you had the horse finish in front of it and with the worst trip. The 5 horse looking to get even. This is a horse that I just let beat me. When you're 0 for 15, I'm not interested. Not unless you're doing something different, right? Give me a surface switch. Put the blinkers on. Try, drop down in class. Do something, right? But if you're just doing the same thing, I can't bet you.
And and look at the money the horse has burned too. In the last in 3 of the last 4 races have been the favorite and lost. So I would agree with you. Hopefully we just didn't put this horse in the winner's circle. It's one of those horses. Joe Bravo jumps aboard. It doesn't really have any speed. Going to need a big pace stool up front, and I don't necessarily see a big pace stool. So I would throw that horse out. One more horse just because it's a price play. I do want to look at it. The connections don't win very often. Going to be tougher on the turf. Only 3% with Jessica Piper and Brian Corner, and I'd rather have them sprinting on the dirt anyways. But Buy American, just since it's a price play, any case you can make for this one or no?
I mean, if you think that this horse can wire the field, you could make a case for it. But the horse is out of the 10 post going a mile on the turf. You're going to have to use quite a bit to get the lead. And I'm afraid you're going to use too much horse early to be able to sustain the late rushes that you're going to see here.
Okay, would agree. All right, so Mike's on the 6 and the 4. I'm on the 8 and the 9. I think you've covered the race if you have those 4 horses. Let's go on to race number 8, which is a $20,000 claimer for 3-year-olds. A purse of $33,000. Is the 7 horse Divas Finale a single and trying to win back-to-back races?
Probably. I think this was a tough one to get around. The horse looked very good last time out. You saw a nice step up. This is later in the 3-year-old season, so you can assume that you might see another step forward. The first 2 efforts in the Doug O'Neill barn were both very good. The horse is working well. There's just no negative right now on this horse. And the one knock you could say is, okay, it got an easy lead. It was breaking from the rail against 6 horses at a lower level. But I don't really see too much pace in here. And so the fact that maybe the 1 horse sends, and that's a thorn in the side to the 8 or to the 7. But I think Divas Finale gets the lead again, is able to go wire to wire.
Well, and by the way, if you look at Ascot Storm, I mean, this horse was 12-1 on the odds makers morning line. It's 5-2 on the EquinEdge morning line. It's a price play. It's the Scotty long shot. It's got the second top GSR. There's a lot pointing towards the 1 horse Ascot Storm. I don't love the rail, but with a good break, I think that this horse in this drop-in class, this horse could be really, really tough. I mean, do you give the 1 any kind of shot at all?
I do. If I'm going to go past the 7, I'd be using the 1 and the 5 in this spot, and then I'd stop there. The 1 horse I think is dangerous simply because, like you mentioned, the drop. The horse is running against much better on dirt, and I actually like the 1 post. Sometimes I think it's a good thing for a trainer and jockey's hand to be forced, and I think in this case, the 1 post really forces the hand of Emily Ellingwood, because she has to send. Yeah. She has no choice but to send, right? If you don't send from the 1 post, you're going to end up getting a bad trip. And so I like when I know what a jockey is going to do. And I think in this case, you're going to see the 1 Ascot Storm send. And if she is able to get in front of Divas Finale, it makes her dangerous.
So I know what a lot of people are thinking. I'm thinking it when I look at Emily Ellingwood. I mean, she's just cold as can be right now. She had a decent Santa Anita meet, but I mean, she is, and you're on the rail. You're getting a weight break, but you know what? I mean, you give me a top jockey on this horse, and I'm probably singling this one. That's how much I actually like this horse. I just don't know what to do with when I have to think about the jockey. I don't know. How do you approach a horse like this?
It's tough because one of the reasons you're getting 12-1 is because of the jockey, right? If this was Pratt, someone like that, you're staring at 3-1, and it's a different world, right? You're not sure if the value is there at 3-1. So, Yeah, that's the problem, right? I mean, 0 for 33 for a meet this late in the meet it's tough to swallow that. Now, do I think that she's been riding that bad? No. I mean, she's got 11 horses in the money, which isn't terrible, but it's not great. But yeah, it's tough to swallow. So it's one of those situations where I think you put it best. If you put a top jockey on this horse, you're using. With Emily Ellingwood, you have to kind of decide, okay, am I gonna put a bullet here or not?
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned Charge Cash, the 5-horse. EquinEdge morning, low GSR. I mean, not terrible, but it's not high. 9-1 in the EquinEdge morning line from the odds makers 5-2. I mean, that's a big negative in my mind. Not in the top 2, Scotty. What is it? Why do you even mention this horse in this race? I mean, I think this horse is going to drift up in odds. You're looking at the race 2 back at Pleasanton. Didn't run good in the last race there. It was tough for a $50,000 group. Drops down to 20. Showed a little bit of speed. Went off at 39-1. Pressed in between horses. So you definitely can throw that last race out. But what would give you hope that maybe this horse can win this race?
I mean, I think this horse has just been way overplaced. It started 6 times in its life. 4 of those 6 times it's gone off at 18-1 or higher. 2 of those times it's gone at 6-1 or lower. It won both times. It went off at 6-1 or lower. It won at $25,000 maiden claimers. It won at a $50,000 allowance. The other 4 races are just way over its head. And the last race, $50,000 claimers, is a much tougher group than what we're facing here at $20,000 claimers. So I think the drop in class is going to make a big difference for the 5.
All right. So 5 has a look for Mike. Let's see here. 5 has a look. All right. I kind of like the 3-horse. So I want you to talk me off the ledge here with this horse. So I looked at this horse. I thought it could be coming up to a good one. Faced much better in last. That was a 56 SOR. This is a 56 SOR as well, but I didn't think this race came up that tough, although the SOR is saying it did. I just feel, I don't know what it is about this horse. There's something about this horse I thought might run good, and this horse has some tactical speed. I know it's hard to see on paper because I'm listening to myself talk right now, and this horse won a non-winners of 2 lifetime 4 back, and then hasn't really done anything since. I can excuse the race on turf at Arlington Park, and then goes to Del Mar, drops to a 48 group and gets 4th. Didn't run good. Only lost by 4 lengths in that last race at Del Mar. Can you make a case at all?
Do you want to make the case against? I can do that. The race 2 back, the 3 got a significantly better trip than the 7 and got beat by the 7 by 2 lengths. 3 was able to save all the ground on the turn, didn't have any trouble in the stretch. The 7 had to swing 5 wide, and the 7 ended up in front of the 3 by 2 lengths. So to me, one thing I do a lot in multi-race bets is if I have 2 horses and I believe they're known quantities, I know one is better than the other, I never use them both on a ticket. I'm going to say, okay, I don't want to waste a bullet here on the 3-horse because if I use that horse here, it's going to multiply the ticket by X amount because of all the other horses I'm using in other legs. I think the 7-horse covers the 3-horse here. I think if you got the 7, you don't need the 3.
Okay. I don't play hunch bets very often. When I first started handicapping and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I'm kind of doing that here. I don't know what it is about this 3, but it's intriguing to me for whatever reason. EquinEdge morning line also is 6-1. I mean, these horses that lose against other horses and they come back at a different distance or come back next time against them. I don't know how the algorithm has that. Why the algorithm has this horse at 6-1 instead of 15-1, I don't know. The other algorithm also has it at 13%. Just for those of you that have the budget to be able to spread. Okay, let's go to race number 9. 2 more races here at Del Mar. Here's the John T. Maybe Stakes. Of course, John T. Maybe, own Best Pal as well. You're old enough to remember Best Pal, aren't you?
I've definitely heard about it from my dad, and the beauty of YouTube, I've been able to watch quite a few Best Pal races. We also had every single Breeders' Cup on VHS when I was young. And so I would watch the old VHS tapes of Best Pal, and he ran in a couple of those back in the day. So I got to see him off the VHS tapes my dad recorded those broadcasts.
Yeah, hard knocker. By the way, since we're on that subject, do you have a favorite horse of all time and why?
I do. I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can turn it. Right there, Concern. So Concern ran in the 1994 Travers and then the 1994 Breeders' Cup. That was like the first Breeders' Cup. That is the first Breeders' Cup I ever went to. And it's the first horse I ever fell in love with. I absolutely love the call. There's cause for concern coming around the turn. I was a huge Jerry Bailey fan, so I loved him. I was not a big Tabasco Cat fan. Got to beat him that day. And I went out and found the Saddle Claw. So that's concerned Saddle Claw from that race. He's always been my favorite horse. It's one of those that just really got me into it, because I was in my family. You can't run for Travers tables until you're 10. So that was the first year I could run for Travers tables. So I was up at 5 a.m. at the gates of Saratoga, got to run in there. My 6'6" security guard uncle, who's about 360 pounds, tells the security guard that I can just go ahead, and he's pushing me underneath the turnstile. So I was the first person in the track that day. Just a lot of good memories, and that horse is the one that kind of fits them all together.
Oh, that's cool. That's a cool story. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, here in this race, I'm gonna tell you right now, like Dog Tag, hands down, gonna win this race unless it gets a bad trip, and then Maximum Rate's gonna win this, and there is no other horse. I don't care. We can go on to the next one. I don't even care about your opinion here. Hey, okay, no, go ahead. What do you like?
I like Maximum Rate. I think this is all about the distance. We're going a 1 1/8 today. That horse wanted nothing to do with the 1 16th. I think when you go to 1 1/8, that flips it around. I think Dog Tag has a good shot as well, but Maximum Rate to me at 7-2 is the price. This is one of my best bets on the card.
Okay. So one of Mike's best bets. All right, Maximum Rate, the one horse because of the distance.
Yep.
Okay, Maximum Rate, and then just because it's Flavian Pratt, Umberto gets off the 7 and the 8 horse going to Vegas after a win in that optional claiming of $63,000. Known as a 2 by 3.5 lengths. Flavian Pratt jumps aboard 4-1 on the morning line. The EquinEdge morning line is 3-1. I'm blown away. It's just got to be the connections. I mean, can you really see going to Vegas winning this race? And are we going to sleep on going to Vegas with Flavian Pratt and Baltus?
I can't. Going to Vegas has to improve off any race it's run in its career to be able to win this race. Going to Vegas runs better when it's forwardly placed and being able to be on the lead. I think there's enough early pace in this that it's going to be tough to be able to do that. To me, I don't see how going to Vegas wins this. I mean, Nasty has to go, right? The 4 horse is sending. Tapwater's been forwardly placed. Going to Vegas obviously wants to be forwardly placed. I mean, there's quite a few horses for a 1 1/8 race that want to be close to the lead. A Quiet Secretary, by the way, on the rail, on the 2 spot, definitely going to the lead. So you have 4 horses that want the lead. I think this sets up big time for closers. So the other horse I think is a little bit interesting is the 5. She's Our Charm, who's been able to come off the pace the last 2 starts. The last one was first off a layoff. When you run that poorly,
she's going to be scratched. Yeah.
All right, never mind. Then.
Wait, Mike Whalen is saying that Maxim scratched. It's not showing that here. You sure that would be a huge scratch? Mike, are you sure about that?
I'm jumping on Equibase now.
We don't show it being. We don't show Maximum Rate being scratched at all.
She is not right now on Equibase. Quiet Secretary, and she's our
Okay, no, 2 and saying maximum the 8th.
Maximum risk is out of the 8th.
Oh, okay. Why? We're on to the next race, Mike. Why do you want to confuse us and scare us like that? Come on. Okay. So with race number 9. Yeah, go ahead.
With the 2 out now, there's a little bit less speed, but I still think that there's enough horses lining up here. I mean, I'm probably, I think that the 1 horse has a big time advantage in the 10th. I'm going to probably end up singling Maximum Rate in there.
All right, Maximum Rate going to be a possible single there for Mike in this grade 2 John C. Maybe Stakes. I like Dog Tag. I'm going to use 2 horses though, probably, but I was so impressed with that last race. But that's why they changed distances too. So something to consider as well. Okay. Race number 10. Even money on the EquinEdge morning line for Corniche, the 10 horse. First-time starter for Bob Baffert. Mike Smith's aboard. What do we make?
I mean, this is going to be tough. This horse is going to get hammered. Sold for $1.5 million. So you can't really knock that horse too much. I'm not going to put it on top, though. This is the kind of horse that I like trying to beat, okay? Like, the workouts are good, but they're not Bob Baffert good, right? There's not a bullet work. There's not that 46 on the page, that 58 on the page. When he does do that 6 furlong work right before a race, it often means the horse is live. So I'm not going to disclude the 10, but I kind of like the horse right to the inside, the 9 horse, Dancing Rika. And one of the reasons is Peter Urton is terrible with first-time starters. Not good at all. Yet this horse has been working very well. And so when you have these situations where you have a trainer who is not generally very good first time out, but they're running them with, last time out ran with Canadian Pride, who is an older horse and a winner, and that's who he's working with, and he's outworking that horse. And the trainer's not good first out. And you have Practical Joke, who is 10 for 30 as a sire. I think the 9's a runner, and I think the 9's going to get ignored because of the 3% first out for Urton.
Let me ask you a question about what you look at workouts. Is there anything you can give us, even just one tip of what you look at when you're looking at, when we're looking at these workouts for Dancing Rinka? I mean, is there anything, and you just look at these numbers and you see what this horse did, worked out of the gate on August 22nd, 9 of 88. Is there any kind of pattern or anything you're looking for?
It depends on the trainers. I think certain trainers give certain things away. For instance, if Bill Mott has a 3 furlong spin right before a 2-year-old goes out, watch out. That's something that he likes to do with horses, to try to fully tune them up, fully crank them up. So certain trainers, you can notice certain things. I do have the DRF workout reports, so I'll look at those for both Saratoga and for Del Mar. I think that you have a lot of good information in those. I have a couple friends who take pictures of horses in both locations, and so they'll often tell me, hey, this horse looks really good, or this horse is working with this horse. I take a lot into consideration of who rides the horse. Because I think that tells you who's up in the morning. If it's a afternoon jockey, generally that's a pretty good sign. But for me, it's not necessarily it's how fast the horse is working for a bad trainer or a bad first out trainer. I think says a lot. So when you're looking at Dancing Rinka here, the last 2 workouts are very good, right? So 48. So I'm looking for 12-second per furlong workouts. 48 is a very good workout for him, and then out of the gate, going a minute for 5 furlongs is a 12-second workout out of the gate. That's not something that many Urton horses do, especially a 2-year-old. So this horse has a ton of talent. We may not see it this race. But based on what I'm hearing in the morning, I think this horse is going to absolutely fire. Now, the 10 horse could be a freak. So that's the part that kind of scares you. But you're going to get a price on the 9.
Okay, so help me out with my 4 horse here, because John Sadler and Joe Bravo are 40%. And I really like the workout pattern of Breakfast Ride, Scotty's second pick, top GSR. Is this horse training good in the mornings? What can we make of this horse?
So this was one of the ones where I liked it when I looked at the form, and then I looked at the workout reports and I didn't. So that last workout was under full pressure and was timed slower on track than it was in the DRF. So for me, because of that combination, I moved away from the 4 horse. Although originally when I picked it, so what I do is I pick 2-year-old races on paper, my own picks first without looking at anything, talking to anyone, right? And then I start asking a couple people questions. I look at the workout reports, and this one fell off my picks because of what I heard about it.
Okay. Now, when you look at these workout reports, I mean, the breeding on the horse has to be a factor as well, right? Does the horse want 2 turns, that type of thing? Not all these horses are ready to go 5.5 furlongs sprinting, and it also depends on the trainer. So you would think like a horse like Corniche, who they pay $1.5 million for this horse?
1.5 million. Not bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's just incredible. So you would think that probably the most likely horse here to be able to get 5.5 furlongs, get it fast, would be a horse like Baffert's Corniche, correct? I mean, and you look at the breeding of this horse, and it really is pointing that this horse wants to go longer. Is that a factor to you, or does it not matter? The horse is fast.
Yes and no. I mean, it has to play into it, right? The horse is clearly fast, but you have to take a look at breeding. And when you're trying to beat horses like this, let's talk a little about Wasted Tears, who's the dam for the 10-horse Corniche. Wasted Tears has foaled 6 horses. This is the 6th horse. The other 5 did not win first time out. They're 0 for 5. All of her horses are 1 for 8 as 2-year-olds, right? And she made $1 million, but $923,000 of that was on the turf, and all of it was going 2 turns. So the dam really is screaming 2-turn turf horse. Quality Road can be either turf or dirt, but I kind of lean toward turf a lot. This horse to me seems like a turf horse. And now Baffert obviously has it working well. It sold for $1.5 million. I'm sure it was incredible in the sales. But I'm a little concerned that this horse is better on turf.
It is. If you look at the turf tab, look at that. And compared to the dirt tab, it's a 73 on the turf. So you can see most of the numbers are in the high 60s, a little bit in the 70s. But when you go to turf, you find, mostly 70s in there and high 60s. So based on the turf tab anyways, and the GSR Plus, it looks like this horse is going to be better on turf. So tough one. The post is good. The horse is going to show some speed. Mike Smith not been breaking horses good out of the gate really, and been grabbing these horses and then just finishing. Maybe this horse's future's on turf. This could be wide open. Maybe you've got something here with the 9-horse Dancing Rinka. Is the morning workout report on this horse showing that maybe this horse is really fast out of the gate, or can we expect this horse to come from behind?
The 9 or the 10?
The 9, excuse me.
The 9-horse, both of the works have shown that it was very, very quick early, and specifically the one out of the gate said it had tons of speed. So I would expect that the 9 is going to be forwardly placed in this race, which I want out of in a 5 furlong race. Absolutely.
Is there anybody else in this race that we should be, as far as workout reports go, that we should be watching for in this 10?
The 2-horse it's been working pretty well. The other horses that were interested to me were the 2 and the 6 from a workout perspective, but I think both are turf horses. So I'm probably going to lean away from using either of them. The 1-horse looked pretty good on the rail, but I have a problem with Arrogate as a sire. Arrogate got better as he got older. He was not very precocious early, and so far I think he's like 0 for 17 or something early in his breeding career. So to me, I like the 1-horse. But I'm not sure I'm willing to pay the price of Peter Miller and Flavian Pratt, and also have to have a 2-year-old breaking on the rail with horses that I think are pretty impressive. I'm probably going to go 9-10 here and just stop right there. And I will probably have a win bet on the 9, and I will probably single the 9 in a pressed pick 4 to try and create value through the sequence.
All right, I'm going to give you one to just consider here. You talked about the 6-horse. The workouts are good. The system is showing that this horse is 10 points higher on the dirt. It looks like it's more sprint-oriented, and it's a first-time starter, Scotty Longshot. Can never ignore those, so I would be careful about leaving out the 6-horse, all right? So, okay, Mike, we're gonna get going here, but first we want to make sure that everyone knows how to get a hold of you. They can get your picks. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Twitter, man. Samobomb at Samobomb18 on Twitter. Every Monday and Thursday, I'm on. I'm doing the Magic Mike show with my co-host Curtis Kelleward. You get my picks at racingdudes.com, or follow me on Twitter. I'm going to throw up my full grid for Del Mar today, so you'll see every horse I like in every race. So that's available right there. I do that as much as I can. We'll also give out random pick 4s throughout the week when I'm playing them. And I usually have Sam Houston. If you followed me before, I'll usually play quite a bit of Sam Houston too. And before we go, Scott, you don't want to do the Del Mar Derby?
We're missing a race. Hello, thank you for that. I completely missed that. Yeah, we got it. We have to obviously do that. Good. Thank you for. I don't know why I just completely assumed we had 10 races today and missed that. Yeah, no, we obviously have to do that. Okay, start us off with this race. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course, man.
Scott, what about race number 11? Oh, yeah. Okay, go for it.
I really like the 1-horse on the rail, Hudson Ridge here. Baffert on turf is not generally something I like that much, but we had trouble, like real trouble in that last race. The winner of that race, Sword Zero, comes down because of what it did to Hudson Ridge. When you look back at the 1 1/8 efforts, 2 back and 3 back, this horse wants the longer distance. This horse was going to win that race last time if they ran 1 1/8 instead of 1 16. I think the 1-horse at 9-2 is an absolute steal. Now that we're going through the sequence and talking about it, I think that 9-1 closing double might actually be a really good double, because you will not be playing either of the favorites. And you might be able to get a price.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, the 1-horse is my top selection as well, and it's got an EquinEdge morning line of 3-1, 77 GSR, which is only 1 point away from the 10-horse Jimmy Blue Jeans, who's got that outside post. Does have some tactical speed. I actually don't think that post is going to be a problem for the 10-horse from the chute here. So watch out for that horse too. But I would agree with you. And also Hudson Ridge is 2 for 2 at the surface and distance. So looks very live here. A lot of things are pointing towards Hudson Ridge. Who else would you give in this race besides just the 1?
I thought Hockey Dad was a little interesting if we're able to wire the field coming out of that 3 post. I think that the distance isn't terrible for Hockey Dad, and I do think that that horse gets the lead. The horse ran well in the Ruby Stakes, the Jeff Ruby Stakes, at 1 1/8 over synthetic, and has been able to show quite a bit of speed going a mile. So I think that the 3-horse gets the lead and is a threat to wire the field. I'm not sure if they're able to get it done, but someone I would consider using if I'm going deeper. And then I hate the freaking post, man, but Flashiest in the 14 post, I think maybe the best horse in this race. It's really whether or not you want to deal with that post. Lost to Hudson Ridge, going 1 1/8, so that's another reason why I like that 1-horse. But the 14 has seemed to improve since then. I do think the distance is fine. I like the fact that they sent this horse to Saratoga to run it in the Grade 1 Saratoga Derby Invitational, and now we're coming back here. I think that you're getting a little bit softer of a field, but to me, this race is all about the one. I think the 3 and the 14 are interesting, but really, this one went through the 1 for me.
There are a lot of times with these also eligibles and these outside posts, a lot of us forget about those. Like I literally eliminated the horse just because I saw 14. I didn't even look at the horse. And then I saw 3%, which I don't know why the horse has got such a low win percentage. But if you throw out that last Saratoga Derby, throw that out. That was that grade 1, 41-1. Those were tough. This horse is not the best breaker. That's the only thing. But this horse is talented. Absolutely. Mike, I can't even tell you enough. So people that are watching, they know, and I mean this with all sincerity, I so enjoyed my experience with you at the NHC. You're such a gentleman, and I'm going to wish you all the best success. And I know we'll be working together for a long time to come. And I look forward to seeing you in January and sitting at the table with you as well. And hopefully we have 2 entries. And I'm going to learn a lot from what we talked about today and reflect back there. So thanks a lot for joining us. It's Mike Somich, everybody. Mike, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you for having me on. It's an absolute blast to go through the full card. Hopefully we gave out some winners and some people can cash in today.
All right, my man. Thanks a lot. Good luck, okay? We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Mike Somich, everybody. All right. All right, so that was Mike Somich. I sincerely, guys, I mean, you can't even imagine what a good guy he is. You know, like he was talking about backgammon, sports betting, what else? Poker. He is so damn bright. It's just unbelievable. Seriously, one of the more impressive guys that we have in horse racing. 38 years old, so he's still very, very young. You're going to be seeing a lot of him. He finds these long shots like unbelievable. He's the way his mind works in his brain. It's just insane. So very good. And on top of that, to be such a nice guy. And his dad, Mike, sat with us as well. And his dad was just a genuinely really good guy. Really enjoyed that. That was really a lot of fun. Big shout out to Shu and to Hurricane yesterday as well too. They were great guys. Enjoyed them, and a lot of good insight here in the last couple of days. Tomorrow I'm going to be on my own. I am kind of shooting for one person for Monday. We'll see if I can line that person up, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that. So that was great. Do well at Del Mar. If you want to know what my top 3 picks are, I don't know yet. We kind of have an idea. Watch the simulcast from Del Mar. I'm going to be on. Don't forget, first post at Del Mar starts at 1:30. So I will be on in about 45 minutes from now, maybe 50 minutes. So you can see my top 3 picks. Watch me and John Lee's on the simulcast feed from Del Mar. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate that. And you guys kick ass all weekend long. And we'll see you tomorrow back here at 9:30 Pacific. All right. All right. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.